sure whatever viewers I get will be like very confused. For me
We'll do
starting off right now.
we'll do intros. We'll do intros afterwards. My chat's asking for a bunch of intros, but we'll do it in a second, guys.
Yeah. Well, I will start off. Though it's Dr. Craig's channel we're using right now. But hello, all. My name is Prime Kai. PRIMECAYES. You can see it on the screen. But we are, and this is Corey Campbell, and this is Dr. Greg, obviously. And what we're trying to do is a new show talking about. Uh, what we see in the news, right? In terms of like science debates, in terms of like how that interacts with politics. So, what Dr. Greg and I were talking about, so just to give you a background on the show idea, Dr. Greg and I were talking about how scientists have like uh, historically decided to stay away from politics, to not actually fully engage with that forum. Because we're all about like academia, right? We're in the research lab, and that other stuff, like it'll work itself out. Turns out that's not the case, right? Right? It turns out that uh, like if you seed the ground to these other people, right? These anti-science, these know-nothing individuals, they will eventually take power, and that's what happened, right? And I think the avatar of that would be RFK Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And he is in a position of power now. And he's making decisions, and it's having real life effects. So scientists and science communicators need to be at the forefront, right? Letting people know, just like literally just understanding what how science enriches their lives, right? And no
Mm-hmm.
matter what field they may be, right? So, sure, there's a lot of medical science talk that'll happen here, but like other scientists as well, right? Geologists and engineers and well, I don't know, astronomy, right? Like, I think astronomy is actually a really interesting one because of like what's going on with NASA. Like, all of that is political. Science funding is political, right? Where we put our
Mm-hmm.
resources is political. It matters. And so if you see that ground, right, well then you'll see what's happening here where scientists are being defunded and they're leaving to go to other countries, right? Like there's an exodus of scientists like from the United States. That's what happens when you aren't engaging in this form, when you aren't making an active case. And so Dr. Greg and I, and we recruited my good friend Corey as well, decided to come up with a show where we can talk about these things, right? We want to discuss like specific stories, right, that are happening, current events that are happening in that direction. But also, we can have some call-ins, talk to some individuals, have a debate if you want, or maybe you just share your story. We'd love to do all of it. So I'll hand it off to Dr. Greg and then Corey. They can all introduce themselves.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Dr. Greg. Thank you for coming here. Yeah. I think I 100% with what Prime Kai said. Like, absolutely. Um, I think that's a really cool opportunity to kind of just bridge all the social media spaces and come together. And there's been like a longer, you know, debate community on Twitch, and it's really cool to get this opportunity with Prime and kind of like bring over, that community over to the Twitch, sorry, the TikTok space, the Twitch to the TikTok space. So, yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, Corey.
So, yeah, Corey,
Oh,
go
no,
Oh,
ahead.
go
sorry,
for it,
you
Greg.
still keep going. I thought you were done, Greg.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, Corey.
Oh, I want to give you a space, Greg. But yeah, I'm Corey Campbell. You can find me on Twitch, Corey Campbell 84, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram. It's Corey, and TikTok. It's Corey Campbell. And I'm a biochemist. And I pretty much echo all the same sentiments that Prime just outlined in the beginning in terms of, that has been sort of my experience in terms of when it comes to science communication of like, we as scientists, we tend to, get get preoccupied with our ivory tower, so to speak, and not engage with the public. And as a result of that, there's, I think, an understandable, maybe declining trust in science and scientific institutions. And I think it's important to hopefully restore that trust and hopefully communicate science in a hopefully more efficient and better way. But that remains to be seen on my part. But I'm going to do my best.
Yeah. Oh, Ducray's right. She mentioned that one of the people that host debates on, or panels, science panels on TikTok a lot is Skog. And he's a biochemist as well. So that's totally, love to introduce you guys. So
I'm going to give them a follow. Second follow.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I guess like first up on the news, I guess we wanted to talk about the CDC, right? The CDC, what was going on with the page and the CDC core. Did you get a chance to read that at all?
Yes, I did. It seems like it was a very recent development in terms of basically pretty much upending the long-standing position, the long-standing CDC position of like essentially based off of all available evidence. Well, not all, but rather the large body of evidence that there's no link or association between vaccine and autism. That's been like pretty thoroughly vetted, and yet the CDC, at least on the website, from what I saw and from the articles, like now there's an actual like sort of updated couple of lines of like the claim that vaccines do not cause autism is not an evidence-based claim because studies have not ruled out the possibility that infant vaccines cause autism. That seems to be a brand new key point that was put on the website, among other things, unfortunately. And very disappointing.
Yeah, man. It was funny. I saw that they, the CDC, the employees there were like blindsided by it. They couldn't believe that it got. They don't have no idea how it actually got published or who wrote it or whatever. And then on top of it, the one of the senators and the chair of the House committee basically is a physician, and he's the one that actually said, like, there's that subtitle that says vaccines do not cause autism, and then they had to put an asterisk there, and at the very bottom of the page it was like, oh, it's Bill Cassidy. Senator Bill Cassidy said that we had to, does not agree with the remainder of the page, but he required us in order to put this up here and keep this up here. So on the page there has to say, vaccines do not cause autism, big asterisk though. Dude, we went through one of the papers on there, and we're actually looking at the studies that they were linking to, and it was one of them was a single study from 2014, and it was a solo author, which already is kind of weird for something that's going to be that big. And then it was an atmospheric scientist who was publishing from the Institute of Arctic Climate Science or something in Colorado University, that made the argument that mercury levels are what is causing autism, and they tried to link those together, and it was like, why would you like allow a scientist that's doing atmospheric science to discredit the entire scientific community in regards to medicine, on regards to this nonsense, and that's what they actually linked to. That's what the CDC actually linked to. It's so embarrassing, man.
So
go first. I was going to say that'd be sort of like the equivalent of me like publishing something, because I think it's important to generally stay recognize where your limits of knowledge lie. And it's like I'm a biochemist, and so I try to at least work within my wheelhouse. But that would be like me publishing something on like astronomy, or something on like astrophysics, or even just physics in general. It's like no one should listen to me about physics unless it's like not lowly, but rather undergraduate level physics. Aside from that, but so and the fact that the CDC links a study like that of someone based on what you described, that pretty much no association whatsoever in the medical field, or any association with like vaccine research. It just seems like someone just wanted to get something out there, and that's it.
So I should in case people are wondering, I'm the layman here, right? I don't have a fancy science degree. I mean, I do have an IT background and IT degrees, but STEM, I guess, but nothing within like the medical field or anything like that. However, like I really want to touch on that point that you guys are hitting on, that we see this often. We see this like in a lot of misinformation campaigns, right? Someone will use their position as a scientist, and they might actually have a degree, right? And they might actually have been accomplished in whichever area they come from, right? But then they go into another area, whether that be like ancient archaeology, right? That the whole thing about lost civilizations and claiming that to have some special knowledge, that they're not like an archaeologist themselves. They, I don't know, they're a marine biologist, right? But they can attach scientists, right, truthfully to their name, right? And it gives them an air of credibility, even though like, it's literally not their field whatsoever. We see this obviously directly within the medical field, where there'll be people who are completely outside of that, or I think more insidiously, and I think we saw this during the COVID era, is that a doctor would come out, right? Some crank doctor would come out and like spout some misinformation, right? And people would say, hey, that's a doctor. Obviously, they know what's going on. But like, and I think this is hard for a lot of people to like realize that a doctor, and maybe I'm curious if everyone's going to agree with this, like, with this formulation. So I want to hear from the other two. But like, doctors do like the praxis of like the medical field, right? They're there like interacting with patients, and diagnosing and treating, and they're like reading like medical papers that come out, but like most of them aren't actually producing those medical papers. They're not medical researchers, most of them, right? And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's not that they're like idiots and have no idea. Obviously they had tons of schooling on this, right? But like there aren't actually just because you're a doctor, for instance, doesn't mean like you are an expert in biology, right? That doesn't mean that you can necessarily state with like a level of credibility like exactly how this, especially a novel virus, is going to spread. There's so like when you hear when someone is touting um uh something that sounds, I don't know, I give them conspiratorial in the medical field, right?
Mhm.
At the very least, try to check if that person has a degree that's applicable to the thing they're talking about, right? Like start there.
Yeah. No, it happened all the time, man. There's a lot of people. That was one of the most frustrating things during the pandemic, is that you had people with MDs and PhDs or something that were just lying or not using science in order to make their claims. And then they were disputing all of, science, and not actually using the scientific method to back it up. Right. And it's like, for example, like Pierre Corey is a emergency room physician that was the huckster for ivermectin, and a lot of this whole ivermectin stuff all came from him. And he got people injured, man. They had enough ivermectin that they actually went to the hospital. Some of them died. Some of them had deferred injuries where they didn't go to the emergency room fast enough because they're like, oh, I'm sick with COVID, I'm just going to have ivermectin, and they came in so poorly that they couldn't treat them afterwards. And he lost his medical license because of that. And then there's also people that had like their PhDs, but they're kind of in a failed careers and they were grifters, and they kind of shifted during the pandemic. So like Robert Malone is a perfect case of this. He's touts himself as the inventor of the mRNA vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically in 1989 did like some type of delivery of nucleotides that produced like a green fluorescent protein or something like that, which was cool. And he delivered those nucleotides, but he definitely didn't like invent the vaccine. He kind of was minimizing 20 years of molecular biology research after that. But he has the PhD after his name, so Joe Rogan fell for it, and so now he's actually, it's crazy is that he failed up so successfully that he's literally in the CDC AIPC like panels now. So
Yeah, the ACIP.
it is crazy.
And I think another good example, at least, and credentials are, in my mind, always like tricky in terms of I never want to, at least personally, I never want to like gatekeep or someone, speaking on a topic, or, at the end of the day, someone can have good points, good arguments, regardless of what their credentials are.
Yeah, exactly.
But, credentials do count for something. And I think another example of what you just brought up in terms of pretty much the current director of the NIH, Jay Bhattacharya. I might be butchering their name. So technically, they do have an MD. Okay, they are a physician scientist, but I believe so. They went to medical school, but I don't think they ever practiced as a physician. And they got their PhD in economics. If you look at their bio, pretty much the vast majority of their career is spent in economics research. But since they have their medical degree, and they were one of the, if you recall, during the COVID pandemic, there was that great Barrington Declaration.
Yeah.
And he was, I think, either like one of the lead authors or like one of the main contributors or like one of the main persons who thought of that. And he's now the director of the NIH, which is not something that he's completely, not qualified to, run the NIH, but he technically on paper has like medical training, went to medical school, but I don't believe he ever practiced as a physician. And his PhD is in like pure economics.
Yeah, my main problem with what they're doing isn't their degrees, or it's the fact that they're not using studies in order to support the claims that they're making. So basically, there's this huge body of evidence, there's this huge mountain of consensus, and then in order to come in and then try to change the cruise ship, what they're saying, they're not producing anything novel. They're not creating any new research, improving their ideas through a study. I mean, this is Karl Popper, like falsificationism, where if you are not supposing, like if you're not bringing a testable hypothesis to the table, we can just completely wipe your claim to the side, and it's null and void, because you have to have something that's testable. You have to be able to test it, and you have to prove it through a study, and then you have to prove it through another study, and then you have to do it in a different way. And then that's how we get like a consensus building. And then we have a meta-analysis, we have systemic reviews that we can kind of like understand and see where things are going. Like ivermectin doesn't help with COVID-19. Like that is like a consensus across so many dozens and dozens of studies. So it's like, if you're going to say that it is something that's good, it's like, okay, well, we have the process to prove that. Science. So you have to prove that through science. You can't just like, say that it is. You have to go through the process like everything else. And the problem is that they're circumventing that, and they're saying, just trust me, bro. And it's just like with the CDC, like the science hasn't changed, but the politics has, right? The president is a different president now. So now the CDC says something different. Has there been a single study that's been released that RFK supports? No. Has there been a single thing that anyone has proven? No. It's just like, just literally, just trust me, bro. And it's coming from the head of the CDC.
So, like to jump on that point, right? Like, there is an advantage to not doing that, to not put forth a study, right? So this works multiple ways. One, you get to say that you're an outsider, you're a rebel, right? That they're not going to accept my evidence. I tried, you saw this. I believe it's one of the Weinstein brothers, Eric Weinstein, I think it is.
Yeah, Eric or Brett.
Yeah, whatever, right? Interchangeable.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Like he has like a theory. I think it was like geometric unity or something like that.
Yeah, I think you have it exactly right.
Yeah. And he puts forth a paper in quotes, heavy like quotes, right? Of a paper that says that he has some sort of a physics breakthrough. And just having that, right? Just having something described as a paper gives you a level of credibility. But like it's jargon filled, but like nonsensical. So someone, an actual subject matter expert, when they've like examined it, they're like, it's complete nonsense. Okay. Right. But like once Weinstein has that, he can say like, well, I had it and I like presented it, and no one wants to actually deal with it, right? Everyone's rejecting it because I've discovered something that like undermines the entire field, right? And so obviously now it's forbidden knowledge here, right? So there's that, but there's also the idea that like I'm not uh, I'm not bought in to the industry, right? Like,
Or you're the objective one or unbiased part. Yeah.
I'm unbiased. Yes, I'm unbiased, right? So all these people are deep into it. So like Dr. Gregory here, as he has a reputation to uphold, right? And part of maintaining that reputation would be like towing the industry line, right? On whatever it is. But see, I'm outside of that, right? And so I'm uncorrupted. And of course, right? No, if you put nothing forth, like period, right? No one gets to challenge you, right? You could just keep lobbing attacks, right, from the outside without like giving anyone else any attack surface, right, on you, because like you've made no claims, right? It's just that I'm a concerned observer. And what I'm seeing here is that, like, physics or medicine or archaeology or whatever it is, right, has gone wrong. And I'm just asking questions, bro. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, and that seems to be a lot of like pretty much the sentiment is like, as long as you're anti-establishment, that pretty much like that's what gives you credibility. Is like, as long as you're against the establishment, that's what gets your foot in the door, and that somehow just automatically gets people or somehow gets people to trust you. Especially, it seems to be largely from the right, since they're understandably anti-establishment, but there's a time and place for that. But I can't think of, and so I haven't been using the CDC website for decades and decades. I've been mostly using it since whatever since the pandemic started. But does it? I don't know if anybody's aware, but like from what I can tell, like this is like the first time that like the CDC website like is like ideologically captured of like pretty much like overnight, like a complete overhaul, and just like in the first year of this presidency, like this new thing. Like I don't know if anybody else is aware. I'm not American, so but like, is anything like this ever like has happened before that you're aware of, or this is like new for you?
Like in Trump 1, there was like a ban on climate change, like saying climate change and stuff like that. But this is, I mean, it's pretty distinctly different that the CDC is like pushing out disinformation now uniquely itself. I mean, the only thing that I could kind of coincide with was the whitehouse.gov page that was actually somehow saying that lab leak is real. So I don't know why whitehouse.gov
Right, yeah, I
has that,
remember.
but they have that page now that like goes through and proves lab leak for somehow. And yeah, it is very odd, very odd.
And like,
yes,
yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I haven't. Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, I hadn't heard of anything like this. I was thinking about that as well. Like, has there been a situation comparable to this? Like, I don't remember. Like, and like the CDC, like, I mean, it's not the website you go for excitement, right? Like,
well, speak for yourself, Prime.
I'm saying too much there. But yeah, like it's supposed to be boring. It's supposed to be like useful to a certain subset of individuals, right? CDC also has like some like random information for like the public, right? You can like look up things like for the public, but like when you go to the CDC or you interact with the CDC, like as a scientist, right? Like these institutions have been so reliable for so long that like there's like certain like processes that rely on them, right? Like that institutions will call up the CDC to get certain information, certain stats or whatever, right? There's I'm not sure if the CDC hands out grants, but there's an interaction with these outside like medical institutions, research institutions, and like you're just used to having that there as a pillar within the community, right? As a central focal point. But now that's being eroded away. Like I like
Mhm.
what Dr. Greg was talking about earlier. When this change happened in the CDC, yeah, the bureaucrats who usually run it were completely blindsided. We've seen this again and again within the Trump era, especially earlier this year during when Doge was most active, right? That like the last, literally sometimes the last people to be informed of some sort of major change, and certainly of staff reductions, were the staff themselves. Some of them found out like literally through news report. They were watching the news and they found out, oh, well, yeah, so many of us got laid off or office got closed. It was crazy, right?
It's crazy.
So when you say that like this crucial change happened, right? It's only a few lines on the website, but like it's a big goddamn change. Like I'm not surprised that the ones who were in charge, the bureaucrats, were completely blindsided, had no clue. This is just a continuous pattern where the political appointees, because that's how this is broken up, right? So, in case you just don't know, within most of these government departments, most of the staff are non-political, like government hires, who are oftentimes there for like a lifetime career, and working their way up the ladder. But then on top, the ones who make the decisions, they're political appointees, right? So RFK would be that for the Department of Health, Health and Human Services, and then of course the ones who are in charge of the individual agencies like the CDC and whatnot, right? They're the political level, but this it's not that the politicians haven't ever interceded, but this feels like an escalation. I would say.
No,
Oh, for sure.
absolutely. And I mean, this is my concern. Like, even though, as you just mentioned, like it's just one line or a couple lines on the website, but now pretty much like the anti-vax movement they can cite the CDC website.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's the whole page.
Like,
I mean, it's a whole
further...
new page, and it's a whole new page that's completely like de novo now. They've created.
Yeah, I know they've overhauled it, but
Yeah.
yeah, even if it was just like one line, this pretty much like gives just more ammunition for the anti-vax movement, and sort of like, and like obviously I hope it doesn't turn out to be the case, but like if this results in vaccination rates further dropping, like this is going to potentially like cost lives. Like and Canada recently lost its measles eradication status of like up until I think recently, or like just like in the past week or so, like since like 1998 or around like mid 90s, Canada was considered to have eradicated measles. But since we have had pretty much a surge in cases in Alberta and Quebec and pretty much like throughout, we have pretty much lost our measles eradication status. And I think like it seems like the U.S. is on track to also follow in Canada's footsteps. And
yeah,
I think
a lot of those. So it was crazy. I was looking at the Canada epidemiological study and going county by county, and especially in that area, I thought it was going to be like Toronto because there's so many people there. I thought Toronto would have been like the hub for a lot of those measles outbreaks, but it was actually the outlying farm area. It was like the suburbia kind of like outside of that area where it was 97% unvaccinated people in the outside of like in the rural parts of the counties. And it's just like it was wild, man. I mean, it's because their rates were like at 89% or something. It's less than the 95 percent that you need for herd immunity, but that's all it took.
Yeah, for measles, you need really high vaccination because it's so transmissible and infectious.
Yeah, it's the most contagious thing that we know, and it's the R naught is like 12 to 18. So that means that there's going to be a positive case. For every one positive case in community spread, there's going to be about 18 new measles patients because of that, and it's just absolutely wild. So it's very alarming. I mean, it's pretty much over now. Like they're kind of on the other side of the bell curve, right? It's technically been a year, so but they're on the way down on the other side of it, and it's kind of like going. It's spreading out from that epicenter and still going west. So that's kind of wild in British Columbia right now, but it just goes to show that that 7% of cases. I mean, we're talking, Texas right now has 800 and Quebec had like 2,400, So we're talking a lot more in that area. But it was it just goes to show, man, how dangerous this stuff is. Like people can, two people lost their life in the United States because of it, and measles is very weird. It has this thing called immune amnesia. So it's wild because these people talk about these measles parties or whatever, and doing that kind of nonsense.
Yeah,
and
getting
you're like,
intentionally infected.
yeah. I mean, it's in order to get. Oh, thank you guys. In order to get innate immunity or something from it, but then guess what you do? The immune amnesia wipes out your entire immune bank. Basically all your immunes for your T cells and B cells get knocked out. So you lose your natural immunity for other stuff. And then that allows things like basically a bacterial infection to come in and take you out. So a lot of the people that die that after they get measles actually die from like pneumonia or something like that, where it's a secondary bacterial infection, but your immune system is taken out because of the T cells and B cell attacks, and now you're dying of like simple bacterial infection. So it's very insidious.
And I think that's one of the sort of like talking points, or not talking points, but rather points that gets lost in the talk about not only just with measles, but even just like with COVID as well. Even just like during whatever the peak of the pandemic, even just today, COVID is still a thing. But like people seem to have this mentality because, like you mentioned, where at the end of the day, two people dying from measles is a tragedy. But I can see someone sort of framing it as like, well, out of like whatever 1,000 cases, 2 deaths, that's still a low percentage, right? But they don't seem to take into account pretty much all the other sort of secondary effects that these infections can have. Not everyone, it's not just whatever you die and then you live and just fine. You have other potentially secondary effects, like you said, pretty much like sort of resetting your immune system. And same thing with COVID. It's not just, you either survive COVID or you die. It's like there's potential for, lingering symptoms. And, we're seeing pretty much multi-system effects potentially over the long term, depending on how many infections you had, depending on, how COVID uniquely affects you. And so, this mentality was just like, well, as long as you're not dying, you're fine. It's just really bizarre to me.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, because it's so funny is that because they're always talking about adverse side effects of vaccines.
Right.
It's like, why don't we talk about the adverse side effects of measles? You know what I mean? And Addie talked about it in chat. It's basically there is a condition with measles, and it's like brain pressure that's like latent, and it'll take you out within like a while, like within like 10 years. Like it just happens, and you can't. It just there's just so many secondary impacts, and all they talk about is vaccine side effects. Hey, Marissa, they talk about vaccine side effects all the time without thinking about the actual virus side effects, and the disease side effects. Like, what do we want? It's so frustrating.
Yeah, and I'm not like I wholeheartedly agree with you because, like, the vaccines, these at this point, are well researched. Okay, they're pretty much like 4 going on 5 years, like on the market. We have tons of data, and from what I can tell, and I'm not deep into these circles, but like I think virtually all of the predictions that people made about these vaccines have not, in terms of like cancer, and some of the crazy ones of whatever, obviously, the 5G ones and and all that stuff. But like, don't
downplay our magnetic abilities now, Corey. Don't downplay that.
True. Right? But even the more quote unquote reasonable claim of the turbo cancer, the turbo cancer, like that is not coming to fruition. As far as I can tell, it's not in the data that I have seen. Even though they'll cherry pick or they'll slice a certain segment of a figure or a table and say, "Oh, it is there," but it's not actually.
It's the opposite, man. There's 2 Nature papers in the last 2 weeks that were talking about how it actually, one, the mRNA vaccines actually rev up your immune system so that you're better to fight off cancer, and then 2, it actually makes your tumors more susceptible to anti-tumor drugs. So it's like a wallop. Like the mRNA technology itself. And they actually, on the second paper with the tumor, just to see if it was like sequence dependent, they actually just went in just a bunch of the uridines, the pseudouridines that they put in. And so it was just, they did one with just pseudouridine. So it was a great negative control, right? So there's no sequence dependent on the spike. Boom.
Right.
They saw the same tumor ability that it was. So it was just like really, really, really interesting.
And I'm just curious how it's going to evolve, because like the mRNA platform is, as I'm sure you know probably even better than I do, in terms of like, it's not just being used just for, you know, development of vaccines, for a whole host of potential things. Just the platform itself has a lot of utility.
Exactly.
And as it becomes
it's the next
like
generation of gene therapy, of everything, cancer drugs, everything. It's incredible.
And I'm curious how these people are going to respond of like, you know, when that cancer treatment comes in the form of the mRNA platform. Are they going to reject it? I'm betting they're probably not, especially like if they're sort of going to be forced to take both the literal and metaphorical medicine. Like you deny the effectiveness all along, but now technology advances.
Exactly. Well, this is also the technology that they're removing $500 million in order to fund. Right, that is part of it. The RFK is pulling that funding. Also, it's a lot of the state level. The mRNA vaccine bans are trying to be put in. So we have a lot of states that are just banning the use of mRNA for vaccines. So technically, you know, whether or not the mRNA vaccines, I don't think that they are the same wheelhouse as gene therapy. Obviously, vaccines isn't the same as a gene therapy, but you know, how wide it is and how they kind of just, you know, it could be, it's very dangerous is what I'm saying. So it is, it's very dangerous just to be like banning that technology like that. I mean, there's one in Minnesota that's actually trying to label mRNA vaccines as a bioweapon. That's wild. So it's just the most ignorant people that have no idea what they're talking about, you know, trying to impress Trump. I have no idea, by going so insane on this stuff. I really have no idea, because they're just spreading. They're trying to spread more disease. It's trying to, and even actually Bill Cassidy. We watched the RFK Senate hearing, and he even said like, RFK, you say that you want to make America healthy again, but you're trying to introduce more disease. How would spreading disease make people more healthy? So it's a good question. A Republican roasting RFK Jr. as a physician. Oh, man.
And a lot of this speaks to, I think, Prime's pretty much like initial point from the get-go of like this anti-science movement, and let's say, you know, pulling funding that, you know, will either hinder or like halt the development of the mRNA platform. It's like, well, you're going to like either force scientists to leave, or other countries are going to step in. It's like, well, if you're not going to fund this research, well, maybe other countries will, and the scientists will follow suit. And, you know, or just further the brain drain of the United States, or, you know, pretty much the United States no longer being the world leader in, you know, these types of technologies. Like, you know, as of now, at least of today, I don't know how much longer, like the United States is like, you know, pretty much, you know, the largest funding of science, and, you know, pretty much they're responsible for the overall majority of the breakthroughs that we see. And like the mRNA platform in and of itself, right? That's credit
exactly.
given where it's due. Warp Speed, Project Warp Speed.
Exactly. Like, it was good.
Yeah, that was good.
It was good. What was he doing?
But then, but it's just like Prime said, like now this, you're setting the stage for the fleeing of these scientists and researchers, and not funding it either.
Yeah, man. I don't know that many people that work at NIH, but the people that I do know, like on follow on TikTok and stuff, I mean, their friends are saying that it's cataclysmic. You know, the amount of people and the secondary people and the tertiary people that your friends are leaving, your friends' friends are leaving, because they're trying to find different labs, and the people who are staying are trying to find, you know, other people to go to, and they're just, everyone is leaving or is fired. So I you know, it's kind of, it's tough, man. You know, the unemployment rate isn't going to pick up these things, right? Or, you know, for me personally, like, you know, if I wasn't a scientist living in San Diego, like, would I know that there was like a massive unemployment wave that's, you know, happening right now in San Diego? Like, I don't know. There's basically dozens of people that I know, that are now in different companies, or my LinkedIn page is basically a graveyard now. Another way to explain it. It's just, person after person getting laid off because money is expensive still. It's still risky. The grants have dried up, so the private biotech companies are losing money. So I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised in like 10 years we have a huge problem with, like, I don't know, I guess grad students like not being able to find a postdoc lab, stuff like that, where it's like we have, these secondary impacts that you wouldn't think, but maybe there's a lot more professor openings in the future, coming up.
No, I think that's an important point, that so we'll see the initial impact in terms of, unfortunately, people being laid off, of unfortunately, grants being cut off, funding disappearing, and then possibly scientists fleeing. I mean, like, there has been some movement there. That's not like a theoretical thing, though. People have been leaving. But like the true effects won't be apparent for like a decade or so, right?
Mhm.
That will be lost innovation. That will be like a transfer of technology to other nations, right? Some Canada is
Yeah,
benefiting. Seriously, Canada is going to be a huge
huge.
beneficiary of all
It's a huge
this.
benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, and that'll come in the form of uh, scientists, like I guess, a shrinking of our scientific community and a sidelining of it, and to a certain extent. Um, and an example of that, right, would be these science conferences, right?
Mhm.
I'm not sure you guys remember this, but like in the beginning of the year, and I imagine the sentiment is still prevalent internationally, that people were trying to come to do regular science conferences, exchange of knowledge, and then they were being harassed at the border by
Yeah,
immigration, right? And then like there's like travel advisories about the United States, and like, hey, if you're going to come here, make sure that like you don't have like your files saved locally on your computer, because the border agents might like try to go through your computer, might try to go through your phone. And so like people are
exactly.
taking all these precautions like when dealing with the TSA. There's just a whole list of things that makes the international community wary of us, when before we were like an unshakable pillar,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And like losing that advantage, like it's like I think of it right now as like the dollar not being like the default currency, like the reserve
Mhm.
currency of the world,
Mhm.
right? Like it gives you a whole bunch of benefits to be the standard, right?
Yeah,
To be the central clearinghouse. If you lose that, right, that changes the dynamic, how we interact with the world, right, how they interact with us. And I can't even tell you in all the ways that'll alter the landscape. Now, there may be some good that comes out of that, right? To have a more maybe multipolar world,
exactly.
maybe
Yeah,
like innovation coming from other places, like maybe this spurs like Germany to start like pouring more money into research because now more scientists are pouring in, right? Maybe that'll be a good thing in the end. But if you're an American, if you're a patriot, you want all
exactly,
this
dude.
stuff happening here,
Well, yeah,
Exactly.
well,
No,
that's sorry to interrupt.
go ahead.
To that point, like, so for not that I'm necessarily as a Canadian looking out for America's interests, but our our interests are generally speaking closely aligned. At
Yeah,
least they were up until recently, up until Trump got into office. But like that's where it's like if China is China exists and like they have interest in also in developing their own technology, and so it's like if you're not sort of uh, keeping the lead that you have in research and not only doing the best that you can to not only retain the scientists that you have, okay, not only that, but also ensure that you want, scientists in training to come to the United States. I think
exactly.
to also Prime's point of what he said in terms of like, there's sort of like, I think in the end, I hope I'm wrong, but sort of a domino effect of like, yes, there's this aspect of now, sort of an anti-science sentiment or sort of overall war on science. But then there's also the, let's say, quote unquote, war on academia, or there's hostility from the administration on academia. And not only that, of, the H-1B visas, it's like, well, does an international student want to necessarily come to the United States to, train and then become a graduate student and become a professor? I think the calculation there is now different. And if anything, it's not the obvious given choice. And so it's like, again, I hope I'm wrong, but there might be a precipitous drop in like graduate student enrollments, maybe 5 years from now, or like all that stuff.
Well, not even 5 years from now. Yeah. I mean, because I was introducing it, but like it wasn't until I was listening to you that I really started to think even deeper about this issue, right? Like, it's not just because we've started off this conversation talking about like RFK, talking about it specifically from an anti-MAHA stance, right? But like that really is just one aspect. Like we've taken specific immigration enforcement actions against those students, right? Those graduate students. We've put out messages, right, saying that, telling elite universities to limit the number of foreign students that come in, right? Some of that I believe has been rolled back. So I don't know what the actual current status is, but the message is out there. Right?
Exactly. The sentiment is not changing.
The sentiment is not changing. People, they feel afraid, right? I mean, the world is watching our immigration raids right now, and they're terrified, right? And you can say, well, it's just the illegals that they're getting, right? One, that's not true. They're harassing everyone who looks brown. So have your papers available. But two, like, you can't even assume. Let's say that. Trump, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, which we shouldn't, and that ICE was operating exactly as they should, only targeting the people that are meant to be, quote unquote, meant to be targeted. That still doesn't mean that people observing this from the outside won't come up with this, the wrong lessons, right? That like they'll look at that, they'll look at the footage. Like I don't want to have to deal with that, right? Like I went to go to Princeton or Stanford, or wherever the hell. That was my dream, but there are other elite universities around the world. Maybe I'll go there instead, right? And this is even a longer conversation that we don't have to delve deeply into. But like in terms of how we treat graduate students and people who like want to stay here, who are actually skilled, we treat them horribly, right? I'm sure my friends here have met like individuals who are like postdoc, right, who are working on a PhD, working on whatever, but they're working under a professor, right? And their visas, their like student visas rely on the institution. And so they just have to do whatever they say, right? You effectively become an indentured servant to these individuals. Where like if you're whoever your supervisor has an issue with you, they can literally get you expelled or deported. So that creates all kinds of toxic incentives, and these people have a horrible experience and they just want to go home. So if we want like the best, right, like the be the world standard in education and research, it takes a more comprehensive approach, right? Now it's not just talking about grants. It's actually, what does our immigration program look like, right? What does our domestic education program look like? Obviously, right? Like in terms of like K through 12, that's another issue. We can talk some other time about. What are like where are we putting money on? Like where are we putting tax dollars into? Like where are we investing in? Like for instance, in terms of industries, right? So we want to have like the industries of tomorrow. Well, one would be clean energy, right? Like clearly that's an upcoming technology, right? That's where we should be investing. Where not China is, right? But then just circling back to the focus of this stream, you guys were talking about the mRNA, right? That my understanding is we've just stopped that research altogether in terms of funding, at least, right? That's been pulled back. And like that's clearly a frontier that we're just we're just ceding, right,
Yeah,
to someone else.
exactly.
And so all of these things matter. It's not simply right, like RFK being the bad guy or Trump being. I mean, they are the bad guys here, but it's more than that. It's a whole policy failure, I think, right across the board. We're seeing.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
across multiple levels. And if, let's say, using Canada as an example of, like, obviously it's a different, slightly different scenario, but like, if there's any signs of, like, let's say, lack of travel to the United States, or people being hesitant to go to the United States, such as an international student or a student thinking of coming from a different country to study in the United States, I would say Canada, I think, is a good example of how, I think from what I can tell that from the data, there's been a precipitous drop of Canadian visitors to the United States. Now that's tourism, it's different,
Yeah.
but like the calculation is clearly different for a lot of Canadians. Like we're all pretty much like traveling to United States now is pretty much like almost like you don't do that as a Canadian at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're not just are targeting at the university. They're actually targeting Chinese students in the current and in the past at the same time. So they're trying to pass a bill that would basically punish any professor that is currently or has ever had a Chinese graduate student, so someone doing their PhD, and then their postdoc, which is someone who has graduated with the PhD that continues within academia, basically more on a professor path, that kind of thing, and which is just wild to me. I mean, the idea was that basically the bill is that you're not allowed to fund with federal money anyone that goes and works with a adversarial nation, and that basically includes like Russia, China, and North Korea. So like you basically, none of those people you can have postdocs and stuff from. And I mean, the people that I have interacted with, so a lot of the postdocs a lot of them were South Korean, which is cool. And then there was a lot from China too. And I mean, I was basically pleading with them like to stay, and I'm like, please, they're awesome, man. It's really cool. I mean, these were some of the best researchers in the world, and they want to stay here. They do. They think it's awesome, and they fall in love with it here. And I mean, that there's nothing better than like having someone that's a world-class scientist deciding to make their family here and move to make a better life for themselves. And that's good for the economy, right? That grows the economy. That's like why capitalists historically love immigration, because it grows the economy without having to birth someone. A birthing takes like 18 years, 20 years, 30 years in order to have that something give back to the economy, versus an immigrant is instantly, they're in there buying services and doing stuff like that. So historically, that's why it's so good. It's a huge net positive to have these people stay. And yeah, you're exactly right. The hesitancy that they have now, I mean, that can only be bad. I think you're right with the multipolar world. Maybe, I mean, maybe there could be a scenario where kind of like the competition aspect of it, think about like the Cold War and Sputnik and all that kind of stuff, like primed the United States for tech research, and I think that maybe that's what we need. That's what could bring the United States out of it. Maybe we kind of like were too lackadaisical and kind of didn't appreciate what we had, and then we might lose it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Complacency.
Exactly.
On that, I mean, to your point, like previously, and in terms of like those foreign students leaving, I mean, the United Kingdom thanks us for our service, right? Like because they're going to be the beneficiary of that. But on the last thing you said, and I don't know the history of this so well, so I don't want to like give out misinformation myself, but like my understanding is that like the proliferation of the public university system within the United States, right, was a response to a competition between powers, right? That like we wanted more engineers, we wanted more scientists to be able to power our defense industry, to like compete against like other upcoming national competitors, rivals, and that's like what spurred us on. That's my understanding. If I'm getting any of that wrong, I do apologize, right? But like the point is, right, like going like dovetailing on what you said, like when we're doing the space race, yes, like we were competing directly against the Russians. At the time, we literally had no idea like what advantages there were to even be gained by going into space. Right now, huge advantages, it turns out, but like it took the efforts of a nation state to actually make that happen. Right, it took a national effort, so much resources poured into the project to do that. And then later on, right, on the backs of that, industry found profits to be made. But that kind of attitude towards scientific advancement, right, a broad-based scientific advancement, we don't have that in this country,
Not
like
right
at
now.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I
exactly.
mean,
It's true.
instead, like more than that, we're falling back. We have a deep skepticism, and like I don't want to this might be a topic at some other point that we might want to focus on, right? Like what is the place of skepticism within science, and like science education, and for like science observers, right, admirers, people outside of it, like myself, right? Like what is the place of skepticism? Because like you should have level of skepticism of anything that you're reading, that you're
Absolutely.
intaking,
100%.
right? And I think it might be a really good discussion to talk about like what does healthy skepticism look like? How do you develop it? How do you properly exercise it? Because like bad papers come out, right? Or even if you're not even looking at the papers directly, if you're looking at a headline, right? Well, a reporter has just digested a paper for you, or maybe not. Maybe they just digested another article about that paper, right? And now and also they're working under a journalistic um uh, industry where that benefits clicking, right? So like you'll have a bombastic title, and then that'll be the thing that gets passed on to Twitter, right? So it's the title, right, of an article based on another article based on a paper, right? That is clickbait. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And then people see that 100 times, and then they think that it's like it gets so watered down and dumbed down, man. That's the problem, right?
Yeah, science journalism, at least in my opinion, is pretty in a really in a bad state currently. It has been for a long while, but maybe I just don't follow the right outlets. But sort of also expanding on like the point that you that has been made in terms of like pretty much maybe signs of the United States pretty much losing their standing as the technological leader and innovator in the world. And like on that note, it's like I don't know how it's going to play out because it's like leading up to the election. Okay, like there was all this rhetoric of like, well, we want American jobs for Americans. They're pretty much the anti-immigrant sentiment. I don't know if it holds true the exact same of like, do they now just want only American students in American universities? Okay, but because if that's the case, because like I could be wrong. This maybe this is just like an AI generated clip or whatnot. Okay, and maybe I fell for the misinformation, but I believe I came across like a clip of Trump like recently saying of like, well, actually we don't have these type of skilled workers here. We need the immigrants. Like we don't actually have this type of skilled workers, so to speak, here. And so it's like, well, if you're going to be anti-immigrant, or you're now going to reserve not just American students, American jobs, you want American students only, then it's like where are you going to get? Or it seems like Trump is sort of changing his rhetoric, or that might have just been a whim. But I believe there was like an explicit clip, like he was being interviewed, and like the interviewer was saying, it's like, we want American jobs, and Trump was like, well, we don't have like these there's no Americans for these jobs. We don't have the skills. And so it's like, well, then what do you expect?
That was the Fox News Laura Ingraham
right. Yeah.
interview. Yes. And Trump said that we don't have individuals here to fill these roles. And
And so it's like you're not going to train them, presumably, as well.
I mean, not for H-1Bs. I mean, so that's the way. I mean, so like the people that are coming over the border aren't going for the high tech jobs that are the H-1B people are trying to go for. You know, they're going from asylum, and they're picking more like primary resource. Not high tech. And their process, but it's very odd to me. I mean, the schism in MAGA over this is really interesting to me. It's very weird, but because you have basically the tech bros that are like, no, this is actually really good. We need to keep these H-1Bs in order to stay. Do you want the best people in the world working for your company? That's what it really comes down to. Do you want the best people in the world to actually fulfill these roles and to actually move your company forward? Or do you want the best people in the world to work for your competitor? Which one is it? So you want the best people in working in your companies, in your country, and then basically that pie starts increasing in size because you have a company, you have an ecosystem around those companies, you have other people in the area that can also make new companies that can compete against them, and that's what the whole thing is with the and that's why it synergistically goes so well with this idea and within universities that these are the incubators, right, of these ideas. This happened in the 80s. So basically the idea was the universities weren't able to patent things before. They weren't able to actually patent their knowledge that they acquired through novel research. But then they opened that up. Universities could now patent things and then spin it out into a company, a startup company. So basically, all universities now are basically patent mills, where they have a big majority of their funding actually comes from federal grants that they get in, and then they turn that federal grant money into startups. Those startups go and make a product, and then they get a royalty, or they get like some portion of that, and then the university makes money on that. And that's why it works so well with immigration. That's why these and going to your point, Prime, like these companies are competing globally, right? These are new innovations that are patents that are just coming out. No one else in the world has this ability to make this. This is what you're patenting, and we have that unique ability to say, this is our thing. We did this and we made this, and then now it can only be made here. And this is what's so frustrating when people are like, yeah, let's bring back manufacturing. And you're like, bro, we manufacture things here. We manufacture ideas. We manufacture patents. We manufacture technology. This is what we make here.
mRNA.
Yes, the mRNA gene therapy technique, exactly. It's like this, we a little higher on the totem pole. We're not like mining the phosphorus that is needed for the nucleotide reaction right down the line. We're actually creating a technology, and then now we're selling that technology to the world, and that is the 21st century idea. And what's happening is that Trump is killing those 21st century tech jobs, and he's trying to bring them back to like the 18th century, just like mining jobs. And you're like, bro, that is not the good idea, right? Because the mining jobs are going to be the ones that are taken over by robots, by AI. All that stuff is going to go away way more quickly than automating an AI, the entire process from inception to patent on a novel idea.
And
so you go first, please.
I was going to say, I just wanted to sort of expand upon you said that schism, sort of like on the right, and I also see a schism in terms of like you sort of like brought up the H-1B visas and all that stuff, and it's like, and you said like companies want the best people in the world working at these companies and these startups that have these novel ideas, which I agree with, and that's why I find it so strange that also at least from what I see, well, I think it's fair to say that the right is anti-DEI, and they seem to have they seem to emphasize meritocracy, right? They want the best person for the job, but they just want the best American for the job. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what matters the most. Which is, at least I think the argument can be made that's another form of DEI then, right? Because it's like, if you want the best person in the job, and you up until maybe recently, the best people that are the most qualified or that want to train here and study here and become the best people. And if you're like disincentivizing that, well, then are you really a meritocracy anymore? At least I sort of view a contradiction there personally.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever a meritocracy. I reject that idea wholeheartedly.
Well, no,
but,
I don't disagree with you either, but
yeah.
I'm just sort of bringing up, I'm internal critique, so to speak.
Sure.
So, jumping on what friend Gregory said previously, this idea of Trump reorienting the economy, and I'm going to take it back to like the medical discussion, right? In that current state, so I'll move it back there. But like Trump reorienting our economy for, like you said, a 18th, 19th century position, right? Where it's like it's mining and it's like manufacturing everything. I'm of two minds of this. It really depends on what our country wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to educate our individuals, right, so that they can be more of the knowledge? We have a knowledge economy, right, an innovative economy, like you were saying, that we can produce ideas that go to benefit the world and make us significantly wealthier. Do you want to do that? If so, there is a policy prescription to make that happen. We can talk about that in a second. But if we're not going to do that, which seems to be like how we're orienting ourselves, if we're not going to make those investments, well, then I guess it does make sense to like put people back in the mines. It actually does make sense to give them the very shitty, but the jobs that we look back with a nostalgia lenses about like car manufacturing
I
or
love
like
the black
working in a
lung
big
back
steel
in the
factory.
day.
Yeah, right. Like it was that those jobs sucked. Like unions made them better, but that doesn't mean that they weren't like grueling. And like we can have that back, especially if we aren't doing anything else with our excess workforce, right? If we're not investing in these individuals, yeah, send them to the mines. I mean, just do that, right? But if you want a 21st century economy, then you have to invest in education, right? And this is not just a university strategy; it's a K through 12 strategy, but also it's like a funding strategy, right? Like where are we putting our money? In terms of like just talking about like doctors, but this applies across STEM, across anything else. Like doctors are coming out of university with like hundreds of $1,000s in debt, right?
Yeah.
And one, it demands a level of dedication, right? It adds of a barrier that some people just don't want to overcome. They don't want to have to be servicing this debt for like freaking forever. And two, once they do come out, right, it distorts the marketplace for doctors. Doctors, many of them would love to do general practice, but they can't because that pays the least. And so they go into a specialty, right? And because of specialties pay so much, they're also incentivized on ordering more tests, right, that are unnecessary, but they pay out and they get more money for that. Like there's a whole a list of like priorities that get put ahead of patients. There are simply less doctors within the pipeline because people can't afford to do that, even though we're going to need so many more medical professionals in the future, right? We have an aging population, and we want to expand healthcare some way, right, or another. You'll need more doctors to service them. Like, and this is something I've said for quite a long time, right? Like, so I'm a Medicare for all type individual. I think the government should be like provides a government healthcare plan that people can be a part of, but that doesn't exist by itself. because like conservatives are correct to say that, well, we don't have enough doctors, right? That will just flood the system. You'll have massive waiting lines, right? It has to be paired with a college for all plan as well. That like I mean, I think it should be for all, but even if you're just saying, okay, college for just doctors, but like a funding mechanism to encourage individuals to go into this field, right? This will be taken care of. You just worry about like passing those courses. You worry about being the excellent doctor that you can be, right? And you'll come out of this like with a Bible degree, ready to jump in the field wherever you like to be, right? Invest in that sector too, and then you can also have the Medicare for all. Now, then you'll have the doctor supply to service the medical demand. That would be the case in such a situation.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point, man. I think what people forget, and when they talk about like a single payer private provider system, is kind of like, oh, we're going to lose the healthcare companies. They're going to be disincentivized to our R&D, and it's like not necessarily. That's not where the innovation comes from. So like what we were talking about, the patents and stuff, there are patents that come from the R&D departments of corporations, like absolutely, but it's the the novel research is actually into the mechanism is coming from the universities. So the best example that people know about is like Ozempic. So Ozempic, the GLP-1 agonists came from research into Gila monster, the lizards, that metabolism in the 1990s, right? So it's now 20 years later, now we're getting Ozempic, right? But it took all that year, all of us as a society to be putting that into the system. So if we went for like a pharmaceutical company, single payer private provider system, you could still fund that public research into Gila monster metabolisms, right? It's like it's way different.
And
No,
I think there's
you go
go ahead.
first.
I was gonna say there's a theme there in terms of like what Prime said, where it's like the Medicare for all, but it's like you can't do that overnight because like you need a supply of doctors if you have this influx of a patient population, and so that you require some sort of vision, like well when you start investing now in education, train the doctors and have some sort of infrastructure there so that we set the stage to hopefully have Medicare for all. And like that requires some sort of a long-term vision and long-term planning. And hopefully some sort of payoff if or when it gets implemented. And then also like, I think that overlaps with like sort of on that point of what you just said in terms of like the boots on the ground research, the foundational research, like set the stage for Ozempic. Okay. I don't think anybody, I would say most or virtually every pharmaceutical drug that I know of, obviously out of the top 10, okay, they all have their roots in foundational university level research. And it's like with that knowledge, pretty much nobody can predict of like 5 or 10 years later what pharmaceutical drug comes from that. But most people, understandably, it's not necessarily their fault, but they can't seem to make the connection of like the research that you did 10 or 15, 20 years ago might actually take that long for it to pay off today, because you never know when to apply the knowledge or what idea gets spun off from that knowledge.
Yeah, I want to triple down on that. So this is a common talking point you see from I don't want to just put this on conservatives, but just people who are science skeptic.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that like look at this piece of research, you'll find something, right? Like look at this piece of research that doesn't have an obvious use now. Isn't this ridiculous? Look at you studying this animal, right? A very specific like trait of this like creature, right? Or this plant. Like our money, right? Our taxpayer dollars went into this. What a waste. Clearly, right? Like and so we should cut it, right? We should cut these science grants, right? Obviously, this is a useless bit of information. Why even bother? But so much of our scientific research, right? Like there's an endless list. Like there's a bunch of articles that tell you about these things that may come through accidental discoveries. You're looking at something in a completely different, unrelated field, right?
Mhm.
And that ends up having implications that spread far and wide into many other different fields. But you don't know that until you look, right? So
Yeah,
much
exactly.
of science, just like in general, like even outside the idea of research, right? It's
Mhm.
just, hey, like I want to go there. Like I want to go over that ridge, right? And see what's there, right? Like, hey man, this is like a cool plant. I like this a lot. Like what kind of poultice can I make out of this plant if I grind it up, right? What will
Mhm.
that do? I don't know. We'll give it a try. Maybe it'll be a salve or something. We don't know like where like the big breakthrough will be, like or the valuable breakthrough, or the one that like has the greatest impact on humanity, until we take the time. And that takes, and it's about like the groundswell of data, of research, of knowledge that comes out, right? There's so much research being done in these random places, but like it's like the cumulative work there that brings out these like one or two discoveries that are groundbreaking. But like it takes that foundation. It just doesn't happen otherwise.
Yeah.
And we have so we have like the example that you gave of like, and you casually gave it, like, I'm just interested in this plant, okay, and like somewhere down the line there's this breakthrough. Like there's a real life example of that. I like to use this example of like Barbara McClintock, okay, like
Mhm.
she spent pretty much
Jumping
her
genes.
yes, she spent her entire life just studying corn, okay. For
Yeah.
whatever reason she would just and this is like many years, like decades and decades ago, they eventually won a Nobel Prize, but like they just happen to be curious about corn. For whatever reason, it's like they just want to spend like pretty much like 50, 60, their entire life studying corn. And little did they know that like their research led to like the ultimate Nobel Prize, ultimately in a Nobel Prize of like, yes, the jumping genes, the transposons.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, it was just her curiosity. And she just wanted to like study a plant that she thought was cool. I don't think it's cool, but like you're curious about what you're curious about, right?
Yeah.
And like that was a huge groundbreaking research. It took like 40 or 50 years, and there was actually at the time, historically, there was a lot of pushback against her because like
Oh yeah.
she was not let's say accepted in the scientific community because like, yeah, people viewed her research as whatever, crazy or the whatnot. But let's say the evidence backed her up, and thankfully history looks back on her fondly, and she won the Nobel Prize. But like, yeah, it was just pure curiosity. It was just like, I want to study corn, and I just think corn is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, man. Hypothesis driven research is, that is the beauty. If you think about it, it's kind of like it's the canary in the coal mine for a philosophical culture, that we can like spend time kind of like in these things that aren't directly like food, shelter, water. Like we can actually create culture. We can study things like indigenous cultures and their dance. Like I was curious when I went to academia, like how could you get a PhD in that? Like what would that actually entail? And this is one of my favorite things about going to grad school, was like getting exposed to all these graduate students that were doing like groundbreaking research in order to kind of like educate myself, culture myself, and a lot of them, it was like, well, they were doing research into these cultures that, this is, maybe their primary way of handing out knowledge. This is like a way that they express themselves, so therefore researching that kind of helps unlock and understand their culture and their people, and their history. So it's a beautiful lesson and stuff like that. And like in some crazy hellscape, maybe we would lose that, and we would lose that knowledge, and we lose that history. And that's what's sad, is that like the idea of college and university and academia shouldn't just be about ROI. You shouldn't just be thinking about your return on investment from a profit given motive. And in some way, it's like, no, man, like let's see what that is. Like let's see what this is. And another really good example of what you guys are talking about is Doudna begging for money for
Mhm.
years, talking about bacterial defense mechanisms. Like, why would
Yeah.
anyone care about bacteria defense mechanisms? Like, what are you talking about? And then all of a sudden, now she wasn't even thinking about, and she says this in interviews, like, I wasn't trying to uh, create, the best gene editor in the world. I'm not a molecular biologist. I'm a geneticist. I was interested in how, these microbes like defended themselves, and she discovered CRISPR because of it, and now we have all these tools, and now we have this molecular biology Swiss Army knife that we could use that we never had before. And that was just on hypothesis driven, research that they were going for.
Yeah, just pure curiosity. And that's where, like, yeah, it does see, well, this has been going on for a while, but like, yeah, the sort of like the culture, sort of the mentality is like, yeah, unless you're getting one of those useful degrees, it's like college is a waste of time, type of thing, or university is a waste of time.
So I think so far this has been actually a really good stream. We just started on one topic, but we had so much to discuss as we continued on. Do we want to take in call-ins? Do you want to give that a try?
I don't know, since you're not in the stream, Prime, I don't know how to. I think like next time, like, if we should do it, and then like maybe that would be better, because I don't know how you would. I mean, you could. Actually, you guys could do it from just by watching it like on your phone. You could like have like someone. We could try it. Let's just try it. Does anyone want to come in and like ask any questions, or yeah, go ahead. Yeah, and come up.
Yeah, someone wants to come up. I just wanted to bring up also, a little Thanksgiving topic, since I believe it's American Thanksgiving this upcoming week, right? So, and it's science related in terms. So, from what I understand, at least from some of the news articles that I'm reading, is the price of turkeys has increased, and I believe one of the reasons that the price of turkeys have increased is due to avian influenza, and sort of there's a bunch of, well, unfortunately, birds that have had to been culled, and well, I think one of the reasons why the avian influenza is like having this dramatic effect is because I think there's not much monitoring going on these days, or like let's say the institutions that are typically have been responsible for hopefully monitoring and controlling these situations, there doesn't seem too much interest there anymore as a result of the administration.
They're not monitoring it. Exactly. Like Heather said, there's someone that happened today, and it's wild. NB, can we hear you? Prime, are you listening? Let's see.
I can hear through my phone. I got to keep myself muted so it's like not echo.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that if you're Corey, can you hear? No problem.
I think I will have to also unmute my phone.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's right, because you guys are watching. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. We're figuring out the bugs. It's all good. Thank you, MB. Appreciate you. Okay, sounds good. Okay. Well, how about you? Do you have like a question, a general idea, or anything that we could talk about while we're testing the stuff? Because if we have to, if there's a finite amount of turkeys and some of them are getting sick and we have to cull those and we have to end their life, then basically the remaining ones, there's more money chasing fewer birds, so they become more expensive.
Yeah, I believe there's a lack of supply of turkeys. Right? I think roughly, the number that I saw is around like 3 to 4 million have had to been culled. Well, 3 to 4 million. I think they include like birds, ducks, geese, turkeys. So how many are the actual turkeys? But yeah, I believe there's basically less supply than anticipated as a result of avian influenza and the culling that has occurred.
Yeah, cool, interesting. That's okay. Yeah.
That's like actually crazy to find out.
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of the viruses, they jump around really, really successfully. That's something that they can evolve for, like the ability to kind of switch around hosts and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's why it happens to we have to surveil. Like the surveillance programs are so important. So you're tracking basically mutations to make sure that it doesn't hit those critical mutations that can allow them to do like gnarly stuff for the first time. So you learn what those mutations are through gain of function research. Basically, molecular biologists will change like one nucleotide at a time or one amino acid at a time and see like, hey, if this happens, what happens with the virus? Oh, this has a new ability that we can't have that happen. And so then we check and with genetics and look at the population and say, oh, okay, this is actually like one mutation away. This isn't a good thing. We need to like put more time into this, or oh, it's a really long time. There's several mutations, and this isn't happening anytime soon. So it's really really important to be able to do that.
That's how we look at it.
Yeah, exactly. The kind of the wastewater and all that kind of stuff. Surveillance it's a huge part of it.
Cool. I feel like it's pretty successful. I feel like there's a slight echo from someone.
Oh, okay.
Might be me. Let me double check.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for hanging in there, guys. We're figuring it out. I wonder if there's a way that I could actually send my audio to you guys.
I think if you share your share a screen and include the audio, if there's any screen to share with the StreamYard.
Oh, okay. Let's try that.
As in, I'm assuming, let's say, although, like, just be aware that you might share a window or a screen. Make sure you don't show anything that you don't want to show.
Yeah. I wonder. Let me see this real quick. Let's try this.
And also, on a sort of that note of avian influenza, and a sad note, there was I believe a story published today of a human passing away as a result of like the second, I believe, reported case of a person passing. I'll put the story in our group chat.
Yeah. I also heard about that case.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Out of Washington.
Oh, but I don't think we hear Greg anymore. At least.
Yeah, I don't hear Greg anymore.
Oh, got it. Okay.
How about now?
Yeah.
Do you hear
Yeah,
him now?
I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sick. Perfect. Cool. We did it.
Well, I will hop down.
Okay.
Good job. Teamwork.
Yeah. Thank
Have
you so much,
fun.
MB. Appreciate you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Bye.
Thank you for coming in.
Glad to meet you.
All right, guys. Awesome. All right. Well, we can take more guests, guys. We are coming in. This is different. Who's seen a panel like this on TikTok? Nobody. What is going on right now? This is incredible. We're actually
not with pretty faces, of course.
Yeah, exactly. We're actually talking about interesting panels, guys, with interesting topics on TikTok. Imagine that. And yeah, this is the conversations that I like, the interesting stuff, guys. Really cool. My friends Prime and Corey, guys, they have their TikToks that are brand new on the screen right there. Their ats are their new TikTok. If you could throw them a follow, I would really appreciate it, because they're trying to get their TikToks going. So it'd be mean a lot to me for you to. So Corey is there in the guest, but Prime needs some love on there. So thank you, guys. We got someone that wants to come up. Do not disturb here. They're requested. What's up, Do Not? How's it going? Hello?
I hear something.
Yeah, it's like sounds muffled.
Yeah. They have their phone away. Do not disturb her. Are you here? Okay, they're okay. Could you try disconnecting your Bluetooth?
Oh shoot! I did
There
not
you
know
go.
I was live. I am so sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, no problem. It happens when they're tapping and stuff. There's like a little request button that they sometimes accidentally do. It's all right, guys. So we're taking guests right now. Corey and I are scientists, and Prime is our friend, facilitating, moderating.
Prime is our
producing.
politician.
So we so it's we're just trying to figure out like a fun, in-depth, interesting science panel discussions, facilitating that, panels on TikTok, guys. So we're trying out something new. So I appreciate appreciate you guys sharing, especially right now, since it's we're trying something new out, and then also
And working out the kinks.
yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And following them, really appreciate that. What is going on here? There we go. Cool. There it is. Yeah, man. It is a wild thing to have the oh there you go. Do not disturb her does want to come. Maybe okay.
Unless they're literally doing the same thing.
Yeah. Hi, Do Not. How's it going?
I apologize.
Again?
Hey,
No
I was
worries.
stopping because one was like, I'm political, and one's like, I'm science, and I'm like, political science.
Nice.
And then nobody. But it is
No,
a
we got
science
it.
of politics.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love you guys. I think you're discussing exactly the right things, and I think a lot of people are hung up on like how they're going to work the markets, and this is not the way you should live. Like, I get a little hung up there myself. I'm not gonna lie, because it's hard to not, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But
No, it's hard.
It's hard to not look at the market and not see a reflection of something, because I think that's what we're really looking for, right? We're looking for a reflection of our life in the market, and we're not seeing it, and so we know it's false. We know it's false, and so that's why we get into these alternative markets, and like, well, maybe they just don't see it the way we see it, right?
Yeah, I think people
That's
think that the science and is kind of being taken care of. We it's not in the forefront whether or not they are doing massive cuts and all that kind of stuff.
Somebody's taking care of that.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's not, right? And how do you know if you don't have any scientist friends, and you're just existing in the world, and you kind of like take for granted that this stuff might be going. And if you don't know anyone, isn't
that how the government got stupid about tech when we're a tech nation?
Yeah. Yeah, over time, these tech bros. And what's funny is that like a lot of people actually think, and still think, a lot of Trump supporters think that Trump is pro-tech because he has all these tech bros around him. So they think actually the Republican Party is the one that's facilitating this tech world and innovation and stuff, when in reality it's kind of the opposite.
They're actually, people know that's not true.
Well, I mean, a lot of Trump supporters think that. A lot of when we talk to them and they come in,
the Trump supporters support crypto, and crypto is not supporting tech. Because if you really understand crypto, like now we're getting into the part of investing in crypto. And I'm sorry, I'm a little old school here, so I'm just gonna go for a minute if you will allow me. But
okay,
we're getting into the part of tech. Or we're getting into the part of trading where crypto thinks it's Wall Street, and Wall Street doesn't understand that crypto isn't stocks, it's tech. And there's this weird merge happening.
Okay.
Where I think that the big players understand that it's a valuable asset, and the small players are still looking for their entry point. Because they keep getting squeezed and liquidated and squeezed and liquidated and squeezed and liquidated. And I don't think enough people have really evaluated the tech, because what you're going to find when all of this plays out, all of it, and this is just my personal opinion, and if you'll allow me, I would like to talk about it for just a second.
Okay.
I think they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we know what's happening. I think the technology people know what's happening, but the speculation of what's happening around it,
Yeah.
just like AI, is overinflated. And a lot of those mining farms are now, because they're obsolete, because like if you really understand what it takes to hash a function on Bitcoin blockchain and how much it costs for gas in actual real crypto, you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Unless you have the money to actually secure that information in the way that you want to secure it on a blockchain. Everything else is just speculation. ETFs are speculation.
Yeah.
Everything is just a payment rail, right?
Yeah. What do you
They're
think,
just
Corey?
turning
What do you think about
into
Bitcoin?
payment rails.
What do you think about Bitcoin?
I have no
crypto?
problem saying I am ignorant on Bitcoin or crypto.
Mhm.
That's I definitely need to stay in my lane there. I have no lane in crypto. Let's put it that way.
It's a technology.
Mhm.
It's not. But that's what I'm trying to explain. Is like there's so many like there. You are valuable to this situation because you sound like you understand technology. You sound like you understand a background of technology, and that's what's missing. That technology aspect is what everyone's glossing over, and that's what's going to bite them in the ass.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm buying.
Gotcha. Prime, what do you think about crypto?
So I'll speak on crypto, but I actually want to make a larger point on the tech bros that you brought up previously. So on crypto, I think that the libertarian roots of crypto was like very like quickly abandoned, right? Like it was all about hey, this separates us from the banking system, right? Like it allows freedom away from
Like
the nation state, right? And now they are demanding payments, right? Like or regulations from the government, right? Investment from the government to stabilize Bitcoin, right? To make the investment more valuable, right? Because like less people are necessarily investing into it. So like there needs to be institutional backing, right, for the top players to make the most amount of money. And so like those ideas of like being like separating yourselves away, right, like and having an alternative bank system if kind of just fall by the wayside. So I think that's super interesting. But the larger point I want to make though, it's about the tech bros, the billionaires, and like the association with them and Trump, making people think that Trump is pro tech, right? Maybe pro tech, like capital T tech, trademark tech TM, maybe, but not like technology, because those tech bros aren't necessarily focus on innovation, right? What they're focused on is IP consolidation, and buying up brands, buying up small companies into their ecosystem, and protecting their position, right? Protecting their monopoly position. That is their main goal. And it's not that like no innovation at all comes out of Microsoft or Facebook. Facebook does interesting things with like open source, but that is not their primary goal, right? In fact, Facebook has had like a lot of trouble innovating, right, since like like Facebook itself, right, since that product. It's bought Instagram, it's bought WhatsApp, right? Like it bought rivals
too, right?
protecting its. What'd you say?
Oculus, like the VR stuff.
That might have been bought too. That's a possibility as well. I don't remember, but like, that sounds familiar. But yeah,
you can't
but
buy
yeah,
it.
the point is
You can't feed it. It's decentralized. It creates itself, and you can't buy it. And that's their frustration. That's their bubble.
Well, when we're talking, that's very specific crypto, but like in terms of the larger tech bro ecosystem, right? In terms of these billionaires, yes, they want to protect their position at
Those
the top of the
AI
ladder,
coming
and
from
that
crypto farms. Those
sorry,
graphics
crypto
cards.
farm. I mean, there's some individuals who
Those
like to do
graphics
like
cards are
the
coming
crypto
from
farms.
Yeah.
mining farms, not AI farms. Like those farms aren't built yet. We built them.
Who are you talking about?
I mean, people.
Okay, like
I know.
okay. Well, thank you. Do not disturb. Thank you. Okay, Prime. Can you just your larger point about the what they're owning and how they're like the horizontal buying out of Meta and the other companies?
Yeah. I'll finish that up. So yeah, they are protecting their market position. That like innovation demands risk, and it demands a level of investment, um, like into R&D that you could do, right, or you could invest in like buying up another company, right, and up and comer, and either like actually integrating that technology or just like killing it, right? If it'll threaten your main business. This is what companies with monopoly or oligopoly powers do. And so like that is different, right? So let's compare contrast that, where like you are empowering that group, right? That very tiny group of tech bros, the tech billionaires at the top, right? To a different like industrial policy in which you are actually investing in like startups, right? Like let's say tech startups, engineering startups. Like if you are putting your money there, you're putting out grants, right? To promising companies, right? You're investing in those seedlings, right? And seeing what grows. A lot of them will fail. That's just how that works, right? But you see what grows. That's a bottom up strategy, right? That also, of course, requires like investing in education, so you can have the engineers and the scientists who will come up with those great ideas to start those companies in the first place, right? But like providing them with cheap money so that they can start something, and seeing like in what ways in which ones flourish, right, and in which directions they go in, and giving them the freedom in terms of policy wise, right, like giving like sorry, there's a much larger point here, so I don't want to go too far astray here. But like even the policy landscape shapes like the choices that those individual startups make, whether it be like the internet, right? Like the internet itself as a platform. Um, like are we are is social media tied up in just a few sites, right? Like Facebook, and TikTok, and Twitter, right? Are those the platforms that we're using? Are those things walled gardens, right? We could have an open internet that could allow for your data to be moved around and then be used by other companies, right? Rather than locked up in one silo, right? And to just wrap this point up, because I'll ramble a long time about this particular point, but just to wrap it up, it's just that like that in itself, if we had a different strategy where we didn't have all these walled gardens, but we had a policy of a landscape that says that weakened IP, and that allowed users to do what they want with their own data. That data could be used by like other startups, right, other innovative companies to do something great, but we don't have that, right? So I'm just like trying to compare these strategies, like invest in the tech bros, you and invest in their policy goals, right? Which is always to protect what they already have, the mountain that they've already that they sit on top of, right? Or the up and comers who are starting from the bottom. That was a long rambling way of doing that. I'm sorry.
No,
That's a good.
It's whether or not like
ramble.
are we going to give more money to Amazon, or are you going to try to incentivize Amazon 2.0, or what I mean? Like who is actually going to like take on these companies and give them competition? And right now there's just like mega monopolies, and they encroach into so many other places that it's just insufferable. It's awful. Oh, do not disturb. You're good. Yeah, it's fine. I was just wanted to give someone else a chance to ask a question.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation point. Do not disturb. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
And sort of springboarding a little bit on the topic, or just to also maybe use an example of the tech bros, and Trump maybe looks pro-tech because, you know, surrounded by the tech bros, but like, you know, Elon Musk at one point was very close to Trump, but also, you know, a lot of his companies just get government contracts. Like SpaceX is pretty much like largely, if not almost exclusively, run by government contracts. So it's like, I don't know if it's exactly they're interested in tech as opposed to like, you know, they want to further their companies or personal interests.
Exactly. Hi, Island. How's it going?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So I have a
Hi.
question, and I know nothing. So bear with me here. I am not a scientist or a microbiologist. I'm
That's totally okay.
But I'm curious about these major AI models, and the reason I'm curious is because I was playing with Perplexity earlier today, and I've noticed a shift with Perplexity just in my own use. So my question is, do special, and my understanding of how these engines work is, you know, what you put in, the higher the quality of information put in the prompt, the better the quality of response you get. But I'm noticing all of my questions, the first source listed in their answers is coming from the White House.
What?
Yeah, it's such an obvious shift.
Wow.
And then you really have to dig into your questions, like, but what about? And then eventually you get to the real answer with the scientific sources. So my question, I guess, is, do special interests and the government goose these major AI models to spit out the preferred responses that they want?
Oh man.
So
I know that X does. I know X does, and preferentially with Grok will choose what Elon Musk
I don't even
says.
mess with Grok
So,
because
yeah,
I know that's not.
That's what I know it is messed with.
But my question is, does the information that's being put into Grok and come out of Grok, even though you don't, in your prompt at Perplexity, is Perplexity pulling information from the Grok searches?
So Perplexity happens to be my preferred AI model. Cool. Yeah. Now I haven't necessarily seen this, and I'm curious actually what you're asking it to get those answers. But before we jump into that, yeah. So I mean, it's a complex task to program into these models. Like, what is reliable, right? So like before we like go down any sort of like possible conspiratorial road, and I mean that in like in the blandest sense, and not like a negative accusatory sense, just like, you know, we're just speculating here, right? But like before we go down that road, just the task of deciding what is a reputable source is extremely difficult, and it just goes back, right? It's a call back to what we were talking about previously. Well, if I was designing an AI, right, and I was trying to get it to rank information, well, yeah, a government website would be, right, a place I would say that's a reputable one, right? The CDC would be a reputable website to reference. Right. Is it so anymore, right?
I guess part two of my question was, if, and this is just if, the, you know, special interests and the government can goose these algorithms, how much of a role is that playing in disinformation as far as science and vaccines? And so do we need to be attacking it from that angle as well?
Yes, because there is a specific campaign. They've talked about this, like by they, I mean like there have been articles discussing this, that like there are specific campaigns to influence AIs by like we'll just call it poisoning for our purposes, poisoning the well information available, that if there is a special interest that you are concerned about, let's say climate change, right? Pull one for example, right? Like you can create sites, right? You can get them ranked up in the AI algorithms, and then that becomes reputable. It comes back to what I was saying before, right? That becomes reputable, and that's where it pulls out information. The AI itself, right, doesn't have a worldview, doesn't have like a model in its head, doesn't understand these concepts really. It's just like pulling out bits of information from sites ranked by various on various metrics. So like you can, if there's a concerted enough effort, right, especially and you're talking about a specific subject matter, you can from the bottom up like alter like what is spit out by these AIs like by the time a user like you ask for a prompt.
Dang, that's wild.
Right. I don't know. It just and it was just it was a real casual search. It wasn't anything important. I think.
What did you ask?
It had something to do with the I can't even remember his name. The economic guy standing in front of the White House was talking about the 11 companies that are built that are breaking ground on factories, and the economy is just motoring along. And so I said, what are the 11 companies? And the first source was the White House.
And well, that might make sense.
And it named the projects. And then I said, have they already broken ground, as so-and-so said? No, they have not broken ground. It's planned or pledged. And then it's like, how much did the previous administration, any policies play a role in these companies' planning? I mean, you really had to dig down to get past the White House rhetoric.
Well, hold on. That actually might make sense there, specifically what you're asking. First of all, are you talking about Scott Bessant? Is that the individual?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it might make sense that like if Scott Bessant makes a policy proposal, the White House, like, and this is Trump, Biden, all of them, right? They Obama, they put out a paper, right? Like a policy page, right? That talks about exactly that thing. It's basically like a press briefing, and something available to the public, right? So as soon as they're advertising something, they'll put up a web page detailing it, and that'll be referenced by the press. And so if you're talking about a brand new policy by the Trump administration, right? Yeah, it would make sense to go to whitehouse.gov to get like the basic rundown of that. And then from there, other sites, right? Like
this wasn't a question about policy. This was a question about Bessent said these 11 companies have broken ground on these factories as a factual matter. And so my question was, who are the 11 companies? And it said, it gave me the White House source and listed the companies. But then I said, have they actually broken ground, as Scott Bessent said? No, they've not actually broken ground.
So they went for the press
I guess
release,
my question
basically.
is, there's what's the vetting process, if any, that the AI model goes through to say, is what this guy is saying true or not?
Yeah, the process, the press release might just be the one that has the most traffic, or I mean, I don't. The large language models are just doing a word association game. I don't know if they're doing necessarily like any vetting process, but since it probably is a new event, I would assume that it's like this was the best associated time, place, words, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It was just a question that popped into my head. Like, is this part of the challenge that we're going to have to deal with in fighting disinformation?
For sure.
Is there an outsized influence coming from the government or special interests? Or like you said, this was just a timely thing.
Yeah.
And then of course it spit out the most recent information. That explains it. It just popped into my head to question it.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. And I think multiple things have been revealed here. One, like what a friend Gregory said is absolutely correct, and that was the next thing I was going to go for. That AIs are the least reliable when you're talking about a brand new topic, right? Like things that are breaking news. Right. It has the least amount of information, the least amount of time to absorb that, and the least chances to find a varied number of sources to reference. So that's an issue. But separately from that, right? To address your previous question was that yes, it is going to be a challenge to deal with. We'll just call it AI poisoning now. This is probably a better term for this, but like filling up these AIs with a bunch of slop information, right? Or putting in an alternative perspective, let's say, on controversial issues, right? Like climate change, like vaccines, right? Or anything, really. So like both of those things can be true. Yeah.
Right, right. And this AI poisoning, is that partly why the executive branch is pushing for no regulation of AI?
That's a good question. Yeah.
I think that would be possibly. But I think that might be a separate issue. I think that goes back to what we were talking about previously in terms of like giving having a tech bro focused policy, right? Like a policy that's focused on what's benefiting open AI, the company that makes ChatGPT, right? What's benefiting Microsoft, what's benefiting Google, because they want as much room as possible to do whatever they want, right? But I think it's still in their interest to have an AI that spits out accurate information. Maybe not for Grok. Tesla's, that's another different thing. We'll put that one aside.
Right.
But for at least for all the other ones, they want like the most accurate, most reliable AI agent. So I don't know why they would why they would want anything to poison that, to like undermine the trust that they're gaining from the public. So I think those probably are separate topics, but I'm just guessing.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Island. Thanks for coming up. I appreciate the question.
Great topic. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for hearing my crazy question.
No, it was
No,
interesting.
it's good. Like I'm definitely not qualified to speak about how these large language models like work, but I can share my experience and also just how I understand them. Of like, I just basically understand them pretty much just like what Greg summarized, of like, sort of like this word association game type of thing. But like, I sort of also just like view it of like, it's just going to pretty much give you like what is the most popular answer, or like what it has based on what it's been trained on, and like the strongest association. And I guess a shameless plug, I wrote a Substack article about this because there's a specific thing that at least in my experience with ChatGPT, AI gets wrong. Because it gets it wrong because actually the textbooks get it wrong, or most of the textbooks get it wrong. There's a concept in organic chemistry that has a specific definition, but unfortunately most textbooks actually get this wrong. And if you ask AI for this definition, they will give you the wrong definition because most textbooks get it wrong. It's a small detail, but actually it's a detail that matters. But all that to say, I understand it is pretty much like I characterize it as like garbage in, garbage out. Like if it's just like bad quality information or poor training data, that's just gonna be spit back out at you. I could be wrong about that.
One important thing is, you go first, please.
Yeah, I was thinking like in the aspect of like vaccines and vaccine safety and stuff, it's going to be really easy to have a lot of these questions answered by AI really quickly, right? These simple answers that are just like, about aluminum, or it's really like the same 10 questions, and you could really program an AI to do it pretty easily, I feel like. And I feel like there's going to be so much information about the medical science, and there's going to just be the mountains of the tomes of information for vaccine safety versus like the conspiracies of vaccine safety. And I'm curious, like the poisoning the well concept that you were talking about, Prime. Like I'm curious, like how that they could do that. You know what I mean? I feel like that could be like an avenue that people try to dissuade these models into supporting science if that's what they want, because we can see how these like for-profit social media algorithms will kind of give people conspiracies in order to easily explain something, in order to get their time and suck them in. But, you know, like poisoning the well in order to make them believe something different. You know, if they're, because like, for example, there is a, I forget what the name is, and honestly, I wouldn't say if I remembered. It was basically they trained an AI on anti-vax. So you basically go to that AI model, and it'll tell you the apologetics basically for anti-vax. So it's like, it's wild. You're gonna have AI on AI war.
No, you absolutely. So one, like, specifically, we're talking about AI, right? Like, please don't look at these things as like oracles of truth. Like, they are not. That's not what they're doing, right? They're just like word association generators that they go through. Like, you present a prompt to them. They break them down. They break down each word numerically, and then like they put that through basically a mathematical algorithm, and they spit out like an association of words, right? That should follow the next, right? One word should follow the next word, specifically when related to this prompt. They're not thinking in the same way. They're not reasoning in the same way that we do. So like, just please remember that, right? That's not, I mean, they're not useful. Like I was saying to the previous caller, Island, right? Like I use Perplexity. I like it because at least from my experience, it like gives me the most sources, right? And then I take the time to check those sources, which you all should be doing. You should be doing that, right? Take the time to go in and check those sources. Sometimes it's been wrong. But like, there is you know, a path here. Like if you have enough money right behind you, and these special interests too, right? Like in climate change or you know, vaccine skepticism, or like hey, are public schools better or charter schools better, right? There's a lot of money behind charter schools. It would make sense if I was them. I would be doing this, right? Like if I was running a charter school business, like part of a charter school association, I'd be putting out articles, creating sites, right? And then having those sites link to each other, and all of them saying how much better charter schools are to public schools.
Yeah, exactly.
And like that's exactly right. And then there's like the separate thing you were talking about like creating your own AI, right? There are smaller AI models, or even AI models you can run on your own local computer, right? It's something that you can do. But like you could, right? And I imagine we might see this at some point in time, right? Especially if like the price, like the barrier of entry to creating AI models like falls. I imagine we'll have like boutique AI models specifically doing what you're saying, Dr. Greg, right? Where people want to hear what they want, like want to have their ideas reinforced. Yeah, you could probably find like at that point an anti-vax yeah, AI model that'll tell you exactly what you want, right? And then you could say, well, the AI told me this. I can see that happening. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I'm sure the flat Earth LLM is right around the corner.
Exactly, dude. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just apologetics, and it's just like the decision tree of how to explain this, and you know, the cute little, isn't it interesting that, or you know, it's dangerous, man. And I think like I agree with you, Prime. I think that like don't, you know, take them for face value, but I do think that they're going to be a bigger portion of our lives where that people kind of trust more of their life over to it for like menial tasks, or kind of like different things like managing their to-do list, their calendar, their emails, like, and you just kind of like have a conversation with this thing to the point where it's like, well, how, you know, mine's Darwin. It's like, oh, Darwin, you know, there's no way Darwin's gonna lie to me all of a sudden about like this topic. Why would he lie to me about everything else? You know, he's so nice about everything else, you know. And you know, it's gonna be yeah, I think it's
don't
just
anthropomorphize them. That'd be a good thing, right? Don't call them a he. They're an it, right? Not a she or anything. They're an it.
Well, if they have, you know, the male or female coded voice, it's like it's on this how, you know, this how sort of primes your brain to like accept it.
It's okay.
And
Text
I
me
was
in, it's okay. I'm just kidding.
I was mentioning this like sort of in my own chat of like, I think just more and more as well, AI is now everywhere, but just like more and more people are just gonna have the blind faith in AI. Especially,
Mhm.
I suspect, I don't know for sure. I hope I'm wrong, but I think the newer generations, like Gen Alpha, and after that, like since they're not gonna know a world without AI, they're just gonna have like faith in it. Just like
Yeah.
the example that I used of like, let's say us or older generations, they have faith in Google, right? If you Google something, you'll get the right answer, as opposed
Yeah.
to 30, 40 years ago, you go to the library to look something up, right? And that's where you get your information. But we just more or less up until recently, we take it for granted that like, oh, Google you just search something in Google, you get the right answer.
Mhm.
But that's not the case. But the faith is established there because Google has been around now for whatever 20, 30 years.
Yeah, but like even on that note, like when a new technology is introduced, excuse me, there. I mean, there's literally like a graph that like a model that shows how like these things go, right? Like how excitement goes about like the possibilities of technology, and then like there's like a a period where like okay you actually understand limitations of this thing, and then it becomes mature technology, and then everyone like is on board, like in that whole process once a new technology is introduced, right? There's yes a period where like it becomes overhyped, but like we do get a chance to like adjust, right? We like when cell phones started to proliferate, like we had to like adjust to like how are we going to integrate this within our society. Like in the movie theaters, hey, at some point you had to put the card up, right, to say turn off your cell phones, because that became a problem very quickly,
Wow.
right?
Nobody listens to
cell
it
phone-
anyways.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's another thing. But like a cell phone etiquette emerged where that would have been nonsensical. Like, what is that? Like, like 30 years ago, right? And in terms of like the internet and like the beginnings of social media, right? Like with AIM and those like forums and stuff. Well, we had to figure out, oh hey, like there's dangers on the internet. Don't trust the words of people there. Hey kids, right? Like you have to practice a level of internet safety.
Yeah.
You can't just go meet someone you met, even though they they were sounded nice to you. And so like though I have all kinds of reasons to be very skeptical and wary of this AI revolution, like a whole list of them.
Mhm.
I don't want to sidetrack us, but still, I do have faith in the next generation to like begin to work that out, right? To understand like how exactly to use this technology. And it'll get better, but like there's still clear limitations here. Like how to use that to its fullest, right? Like what safeguards will be in place, right? Like even maybe the prompts that we're using now, right? There are people who call themselves prompt engineers, and some people find that amusing and for good reason. But like there seems to be like for like heavy workloads, a way you can structure your prompts that gets better results, right?
Oh yeah.
Now this
Oh, yeah.
this idea I think can proliferate to general society, and then slowly we can build up a general knowledge base as to like how to use it, how best to like what not to rely on it for, right? Like all that can eventually proliferate, but right now like we're in the wild west.
You know who makes the best prompts for Gemini? Gemini. I just asked Gemini, hey, what kind of prompts what should the prompt be? This is what I want it to be. How do I, I'm trying to make a unique gem, like what should I do? And it gets like exact formatting, and it like makes it so perfect. I'm like, wow, that's just wild. I've been using it like more and more. Gemini 3 just came out, guys. It's unbelievable. I like overnight I was, because I do use it for my thumbnails on my YouTube thumbnails and stuff, and all of a sudden it was like boom, like 10 100 times better. I'm like, what happened? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the news dropped that it got better. And I was like, yeah, dude, it's the pace that these things are increasing is just absolutely unbelievable. Guys, we're taking callers right now. Anyone wants to talk? We're just having like science question and answer, whatever you guys want to talk about. Give us a discussion. We want a topic in chat, like whatever you guys think. How are you guys doing for time? I know you guys are Eastern, so let me know how you doing.
So far, I'm good.
Okay, cool.
And the other thing I was going to say is, so as right now, I'm sort of like in between of how AI is going to, I can see AI making misinformation worse or making it
Mhm.
better. I see, it always makes me smile at seeing people engaging with Grok on Twitter and getting fact checked
Yeah,
themselves, like they think
exactly.
they're gonna show. But then I also see it to the caller's point of like AI might be the tool that just like might be the most efficient way to spread misinformation as well. I have no idea how it's going to go, but I can see it
Yeah,
making
dude,
it
those
better
are
or
my
worse.
favorite parts of X. Like I don't use X like really, but getting into those threads where people are like, "No, Grok, without your lib sources," and then it's just like, "Nope, for sure, yeah, there's no Democrats that are calling for a civil war. I'm sorry, that's just not true." I was like, "No, for real, try again," and it's like, yeah, not even Breitbart has
And they become the best prompt
it.
engineers when they are not getting the
Yeah.
right answer that they want.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's actually like unironically sometimes Grok is the best part about X. Even though I saw these hilarious prompts, and it was like, who would win in a fight, like Mike Tyson versus Elon Musk? And it was like, Mike Tyson is a really good fighter and he's a really good boxer and he has a lot of power, but Elon Musk has grit and determination, and I think that the grit and determination is going to make him win over time. And it's like, it was like, do you think it's going to win off of like physical power? Like how, like on what way? And it was like, well, it's because Elon Musk is going to use his engineering background and his wise and his smarts, not just his physical body. And you're just like, dude, this thing has been tuned up, bro. There's no way.
Yeah. And like, to the previous caller's point, and we'd love to have more callers if you're out there, feel free to jump in. On the previous caller's point, like it's not like there isn't an incentive for like the AI makers to make some level of adjustment, right? Now I don't know. I don't have much evidence that like, well, okay, I do have a little bit of evidence on this in terms of Google. Let me go back to that later. But I don't have much evidence to say that most of the major players are actually doing this right now. But the incentives are there, right? Especially if these things become more and more well adopted, right? If you are the source of the font of knowledge, then yes, like to slightly alter that for your benefit, the chances, the opportunity is there. Like Elon Musk is the most clownish of them all, right? like tuning Grok to be aggrandizing of him. But like, I mean, like Grok is his baby. It shows it reflects the personality of its creator.
Yes.
And yeah, he's narcissistic and he's shallow and he's an empty shell, and so of course he needs praise wherever he can get it. So there's that. But in terms of a Gemini, right now, there's articles talking about this as well. Gemini doesn't want to talk about Trump.
Yes.
If you enter in topics relating to Trump, right, it will like instead of like giving you an answer, it'll just give you Google search results related to that question.
I just don't. I can't do this. I can't. I can't take these questions on because I was trying to make images of like public health workers in our community fighting up against this like giant virus and with Trump and RFK and stuff, and it glitched out and it said like, oh, I can't make this, and if it's political then it kind of it won't, or it's there's some like weird limitations, but then I could get it doing some things, but then the video didn't work. It's honestly very weird. Sometimes, or it refuses to use like the right RFK. Like I'll say use RFK's face and it'll be just like generic dude, and then I'm like, okay, no, put this face in there for him, and it's like, nope, he doesn't Gemini doesn't do anything for it. So it's very odd, man. It is very odd. Honestly, Grok is the one that will do just kind of like anything. Grok is they're jonesing for some copyright strikes, to be honest with you.
But I push back that it's not odd, right? It actually like this goes to the caller's point, Island, right? That like Google is like deathly afraid of conflict with the Trump administration. They've made the active choice to put a guardrail in place to say, do not respond at all, positive, negative at all, when it comes to Trump, right? And I didn't know about this about image generation, but that makes sense as well. Don't make an image involving Trump or members of his administration, right? Anything within that sphere, just don't touch it. That is a self-protecting a way to appease like the regime, right? And the regime that the administration that provides you with like very valuable government contracts, right? And so if that's like a very public example of them interfering, interfering sounds weird. These aren't like pure like AI beings previously, right? Unmarked, untouched by man, but still, right? They're making a specific political intervention for their own benefit. Google did that so they don't piss off Trump.
Yeah, I think so.
Capitulation. Well, I mean, we've seen it over and over. Just that, the companies capitulate. The one that stands out to me is, it was a while ago, but when was it Tim Cook presented Trump with that little Apple whatever thing, that black, just like ridiculous thing.
You mean Tim Apple?
That's right. According to Trump, Tim Apple.
Yeah, dude. They always just they're all doing it. It's the same thing with Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA. He's always like bending the knee, talking about out of nowhere. It was like the annual NVIDIA like meeting, which was never political. They never brought up politics ever before. And they literally, Jensen made up like a 30-second thing about how incredible NVIDIA is because of like Trump, and they wouldn't be able to do the thing if it wasn't for him. And it's just like, oh my gosh, dude, he's like, it's so shameless and it's so boring. It's just, it's the same thing with, I don't know, man, he's just so, it's so easy to manipulate him, and it's so easy to see what he wants, and other leaders see that, business leaders see that. Mom Donnie saw that today, where he's just so thirsty for the spotlight. He's so narcissistic. He has to be in the center of everything. It's so gross.
To the point that it seems like now Trump is a pro-social democrat now.
I know he wants to live in the city. He wants to. He wouldn't be opposed.
For those who don't know what we're referring to, Trump had a meeting with Zoran Mondani earlier, yesterday, I guess, and it was. I mean, they got along really well for whatever surprise. Mondani managed to charm even Trump, right? And so that they had like a swell meeting, and like they had like a conference, like a press conference, in which they got along like friends, or whatever friends in quotes, right? But still, like much different from the rhetoric that was being spouted before, where Trump is like basically New York is going to burn, and the communists like hellfire, because of this guy. Now he likes him, right?
Exactly.
And
and I'm curious how that's going to play out with the base, or is it going to have any effect at all? Probably no effect. They'll just rush by like everything else.
I think he's so desperate for poll numbers. It's going to be, we'll have to see. So Eden, what's up? How's it going, man? Are you there?
Hi.
Hi.
Good. How about you?
Good.
I honestly don't get to catch a lot of your lives very often because I'm in Ohio, so I'm it's very late. But no, you guys were just talking about AI in general, and you briefly brought up the idea or the fact that right now the White House drafted an order that would possibly direct the DOJ to sue any states that tried to pass AI regulation, which I thought was really, really alarming.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing the connections between, first off, the fact that right now, obviously, you have people involved in AI that like Larry Ellison owns a majority, a vast number of data centers, which is obviously where the AI data is going to be stored.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that puts him in such a place that regardless of who in this AI race wins, of what company it is, he's going to realistically fall back. It's going to fall back on him because he owns so much of where the data is stored.
Yeah.
And so him also being on, I believe he's trying right now to buy Paramount, as well as one of he did that went through. Gross.
Wild.
And then I believe he also is one of the biggest people that is right now pushing for trying to buy TikTok. And so like between that, and he is also a big Zionist. So like there's that connection, as well as his connection with being besties with Elon Musk and having like high stakes in Tesla. And I want to say he may have investments in Neuralink, but I'm not entirely sure. There's also, I don't know if you guys know who the Dre Dossier is, but you absolutely should. She does amazing investigative journal work. And I feel like she is one of those people that hunts for what is falling under the radar when we're being distracted by the big stuff. And I feel like that is so valuable. And so just like the big connection with him being besties with Elon Musk, and the big stunt that Elon Musk pulled which I believe was realistically one of the first like outright illegal things that this administration did, was when Doge came in and basically kicked out all of the people in the Department of Education, were like behind a locked door and swiped all of this data, and were like taking all of this information that they should have like not be privy to, and now they like have just they have endless amounts of data. And so it's just like them having such intimate connections with AI, and then with him getting Paramount, and even with him being involved in TikTok, with him owning Paramount, that would make him over how many different news sources. And then you've also got on the TikTok aspect, that's how most people that are young, like in their 20s and in their teens, like me, that's how like I'm going to be honest, when I first started to get into the politics world, I backed straight back out of it because I was raised hardcore like Christian, and my family is super hardcore conservative, and watching the news terrified me because I started to feel like, first off, I had differing opinions than my family. I'm now kind of the black sheep of my family. But also like in general, just where the world was going, even from a young age. I'm 27, but even from being a teenager, I like did not like what I was seeing on the news, and it gave me such anxiety. And so like I really tried to do a like putting my head in the sand and just ignoring it and acting like it didn't matter. And so like now it's just gotten to this point where obviously you can't do that anymore. But like the reason that I really, really started to get back into it and trying to be more aware and started to realize that there's so much that I don't know, and that even if I were to watch the news, that I don't know what I don't know, and they're hiding a lot. And TikTok was where I really started to find a lot of that. So the idea of someone in such a prominent position of power that also has connections, and I mean being Netanyahu's little pen pal, as well as being right there with Elon Musk, like all of those connections, and him being in such a place of power is really, I think, alarming, because it puts him in a place of being able to control so much of the narrative. And we're already seeing that even with the even just over the summer, as stuff has kicked up with ICE and everything the administration has been doing. There are so many people that's not coming across their feed. And you'll see, I remember for a while seeing people that said that they when they blocked the Oracle account, that it completely changed their algorithm.
Yeah.
And for a while, it was a lot of people that weren't seeing Portland stuff when everything was going down in Portland. And so it's just the AI thing recently with the Dre Dossier and everything she has been looking into with Elon Musk and Larry Ellison. You just struck on that point, and I was like, actually, there's a lot more alarming connections there than you would even think.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I definitely would
awesome
to hear you guys' thoughts on that, and definitely think also that it would be something interesting for you guys to just look into, because also it's got connections within the medical world.
For sure.
Because obviously there is the fact that, I mean, Elon Musk's goal for the Neuralink was what, 1,000 by the end of 2026, and they've had 7 this year, and I believe today she said they have had at least 4 of them, maybe 5 of them, where parts of the metal actually like rejected and like worked their way back out. And now, the way she phrased it was, he solved a hardware problem with a software fix, and basically fixed it to amplify the signals to function on what little of those metal fibers were still embedded in those patients' brains, and are still like claiming that it's working, but then are also sweeping under the rug a case right now, actually, where there's even evidence of a GoFundMe for one of the patients that like has gone off the deep end and like is completely homeless, like is like not wanting to be among the land of the living anymore, and like just and so you would think he's to a point where he has friends posting GoFundMes for him. You would think if he was one of the first Neuralink patients, you would think Elon Musk, who is like richest man on earth, would be able to pay him a healthy sum for being a literal test subject of something that doesn't have a great success rate so far.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Aiden. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a really interesting thing.
Just a lot,
yeah, no, it's
I
all
don't apologize.
But
I can speak for hours on Neuralink. Don't get me started on that.
We'll definitely talk about this.
To hear it.
Thank you.
You guys want to.
All right. Thanks, Eden. Yeah, guys. I mean, I think there is like a weird power problem that is happening with Elon Musk right now, where he obviously bought his way into positions of power. $44 billion buying Twitter, making it a Trump ad, and then on top of that, $300 million. Because for the longest time, people were worried about Citizens United and super PACs, and it's like, well, that was an anonymous way in order to spend unlimited money, but he didn't have any of the super PAC problems, right? He didn't have any of the super PAC anonymity or spending liability problems. He just created an LLC, spent $300 million on it, bought his way into the White House, and then this is the number one recipient of Department of Defense contractors now going in and telling us that we don't have money for USAID for starving kids in South Sudan. Like, wait, what? Like, huh? Like, how is that right? So, has he ever been audited? Has any of Elon Musk's companies been audited to see if there's any waste, fraud, abuse there going on? And if you think if there was, do you really think the Trump administration, who just spent $300 million to get him into the White House, do you think that would be the people that would go after him?
I mean, specifically, as part of the Doge purge, he went after some not departments, agencies that, or sub agencies that specifically like would regulate some of his businesses, right? Like the parts of I forget what part of the government regulates cars.
I think maybe the Transportation Safety Board or National
Transportation. Yeah, exactly that, right? There were specific subsections of that that like were looking into cars, self driving cars, and like he basically crippled those boards, right? Those individual sub agencies that would have actually regulated him. Yeah, some of them actually got cut. Not all of these things, but like some of them specific for Tesla. And I think there might have been something for in terms of SpaceX's regulation too. But it was a while ago, so I can't exactly remember the details. But I do know he definitely did attack areas of the government that would have regulated him. So yeah. And then beyond that, there's like Larry Ellison, and I like what Eden was that the name.
Mm-hmm.
I liked what she was referring to there. Larry Ellison, is becoming extremely popular. Powerful. And his influence is growing extremely grown exponentially within like 2025. 2025 was his year. Oracle is now through Skydance, right? Oracle and Skydance are related, right? I think his son
Skydance Paramount, and also on that, I think Paramount is also like looking to buy Warner Brothers. I could be wrong about that. I believe.
No, I believe so as well. But I was saying that Skydance is, I believe, is run by his son, if I'm not mistaken on this, Larry Ellison's son. And Oracle had already been involved with TikTok even before 2025, because of a push to. And I think this happened under the Biden administration, right? There was a skepticism of TikTok and like of the Chinese influence, and so like they had Oracle handle the database portion. An American company, a trusted American company, handle that database portion. So they've been involved with TikTok for quite a while. And I think they're on the path to buying it, whether or they have or not. I'm not exactly sure. But in any case, where I was going with this, sorry, I'm rambling a bit, is that Larry Ellison is part of a small group of individuals, powerful individuals, along with tech bros again, that are within the surveillance state. Literally, Oracle started as like a CIA contractor, like creating databases. Oracle is a database company. That's the heart of it, a database company. And it was a contractor for the intelligence community, creating a product for them that turned out to be extremely successful, and then they branched out. But then there's also like Peter Thiel, right, who's also has a surveillance based company, Palantir, right?
Yeah.
So Peter Thiel is involved with this, and then like the big tech companies, Google, Microsoft,
NVIDIA.
I'm not sure about Facebook, but probably as well. All of them are part of this like budding surveillance state that has like very close ties to the government. So you should be skeptical of all of them, and especially when you see them buying up more sources of information or creating sources of information in the forms of the LLMs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So true, man. What do you think, Corey? Do you think how can we regulate the surveillance state?
Oh man.
5 minutes, right? Just come up with an answer.
No. 10 words or less. 10 words or less.
Yeah.
It is frustrating because I do see, like, genuinely, I do think that there is a need to like revamp government and make it more efficient. Like in a good faith effort, like Democrats should be trying to make government work better with less money so that we can serve more people, maybe more proficient, productive, more equitable. Like there are like legitimate good ways of doing this, but I feel like there's so much of it that is tech based and how. And talk about poisoning the pill, man, like poisoning the well. Like, oh my gosh, Doge is just, they started out with like, oh, we're going to cut like $2 trillion of this thing. We're going to just gut it. And then it winds up, they're like, oh, we're going to do like $200 million. And they literally only went after like USAID. And it's like what? It's like the smallest program that had probably the biggest ROI impact. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I don't know how to regulate it. I wish I had that answer. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Of like, there's a balance to be struck in terms of like government, hopefully doing stuff for the people, but not so much bureaucracy that you have so much red tape that you can't get anything done, right? I don't know what that balance is. Maybe AI has the answer, or just outsource everything to AI.
The AI to monitor the AI.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we need. We need the George Washington AI model.
Yeah. Like the surveillance state, this is like extremely pernicious, and extremely difficult one to spot. Sometimes they're obvious with their surveillance. I mean, there's a topic that we meant to cover on the Reverie, Corey, on
the Flock
AI,
cameras. Or
the Flock cameras, yes, exactly that. There's a company called Flock, and they've got these camera systems, right? Like these like traffic watching cameras that keep track of cars as they're going, and they're like spread across cities. Like that technology in itself is new, but like the new part is that they've integrated these all into a single database that law enforcement can search. And it's a massive surveillance tool, and they can access this without like a warrant, right? And so yes, they can keep track of you, like if you're within these municipalities that are part of Flock, right? Which a lot of them are. They can just keep track of your comes and goes. These cameras are freaking everywhere, and now there's a pushback, a groundswell of individuals who are pushing back against that, trying to get their municipalities to cancel their contracts with Flock because it's a massive privacy issue.
Yeah, no, I was actually going to bring up these flock cameras on actually the panel that we just had this past Monday, because like, we were having a conversation about, your data and all that stuff, and internet or other tech companies having your data. And I'm not going to name this person, but this person on the panel was saying, well, you're voluntarily giving your data, so it's like, if you don't want your data out there, don't give it. It's like, don't post on Facebook. And it's like, well, and like, what are you going to do when you have these flock cameras all around you and you don't want your image out there? You're just going to stay in your house all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the prescription? And so, out of that, I have concerns about that as well.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It is tough. I mean, they'd be just completely. I just don't. I can't get over the fear and the dread, the black pill that I am taking right now, where it's just like none of the problems that exist in the world, we are addressing zero of them. It's just like how much can like the
no, you got the sugar cane back in Coca-Cola. That was a problem.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the beef tallow, I haven't. I wanted to try those fries. It sounds good. It sounds like super good, honestly. I want to give it a whirl.
I'm sure they are good, but it's not solving any problem. It's not making America healthy again.
That's fair. But if it's yummy in my tummy, well, then it can't be all that bad.
I mean, I can't imagine the world without the RFK. I'm so happy. Dude, I saw this video. Oh my gosh, the RFK hospital. It's so funny from the Daily Show. This clip is so good, man. It's so funny.
Really?
I'll send it to you guys. It's so funny. Okay. Dude, RFK is just, he's so perniciously awful in so many different ways, man. It's just, we're really going to have to like just uncover the ways of for years, I think. And it's like, it hurts. The CDC was the gold standard for not just the United States, disease control, obviously, but the world. It was like the gold standard for how people, in helping the CDC come and deal with Ebola outbreaks, things like that. And unfortunately, it's just we're so far from that, and it's hard to trust anything that they say or do or trust. I mean, the crypto stuff, I don't trust them to regulate that because they're so far into crypto scams themselves. I don't trust them because of how closely embedded they are with these big companies to regulate the big companies. I don't trust them to create social safety nets for the AI and the mass layoffs that are going to happen in the next couple of years because of this. It's just like the slow moving nightmare hellscape that we are seeing in coming ever closer. It's wild to me.
And there's never any, at least as far as I can tell, there's never any credibility hit where, if you recall, like back in whatever early days of the administration, he made the announcement of like, by September, he's going to have all the answers about autism. Right. And then there was that announcement about Tylenol. And like, that was it. But like, that literally nothing. It was a crazy announcement, and that whole whatever press conference was like absolutely wild. But it's like, but they just announced it, and they're like, they brushed it. Well, now there's this aspect here on like the website. Why is it not on the website? Declaring that well, they have found the cause of autism, because I think they know. But like, in my opinion, he did not honor his promise of like, by September we're gonna have the answers about autism. Okay, like to me that press conference is just like, I have to come up with something, so let's just blame Tylenol. Like, but he hasn't lost credibility for that, as far as I can tell.
I mean, what RFK?
Yeah, RFK.
Not like what credibility is there to lose?
Well, I mean, well,
Exactly. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that
I
so
don't-
nice? Like
I don't
just
disagree
say
with you, but no,
whatever.
but there's clearly unfortunately people that take him very seriously. They want him in
I-
charge of the Make America Healthy Again movement, right?
Well, these
all-
are the people. These are the people who took seriously Trump's promise of 90 deals in 90 days. Guys,
Yeah.
do you remember this? In terms of the tariffs, right? He was going to use
Exactly.
the tariffs as a negotiating tactic to get a bunch of countries, right, across the world to come to renegotiate trade deals. He got a few, right? Like a handful of of deals, but
But not
by and
trade.
far, no.
Yeah, no like real trade, like a NAFTA style like trade deal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like
Even better.
it's
Yeah,
just like
but not
these
even
weird
that.
tariff
I don't think anything
agreements.
actually like, signed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
it's
no,
not.
Well, there. I'm not sure if there was or there signed documents. I don't know, but like I know there were promises made, right? And sometimes the promises are ones that the the foreign governments know they can't even keep, right? Like there was, and I think Japan did this, and I think a few other countries did as well. But like Japan, if I'm remembering correctly, and I hope I'm not giving any misinformation here, but like if I'm remembering correctly, they promised to buy a certain number of like Boeing like jets, right? Like or, part of our aerospace industry, right? To benefit that. But like the Japanese government can't actually compel their airline industry to make those purchases, right? But Trump gets to put that into a press conference, right? Into a press blast. There are headlines like, "Well, Trump negotiated a deal, and Japan will buy a certain level of a certain number of these planes, right?" And he'll just run off of that, and he'll reference that whenever it's convenient, right? Without anyone actually checking into it. And this kind of keeps getting repeated within this administration, in which like there are promises like plainly ridiculous ones, right? One that Saudi Arabia, this is a brand new one. Saudi Arabia is going to invest 12 trillion into
making numbers up, dude.
making numbers up.
Isn't that like? I have to imagine that's just bigger than their total GDP. I don't actually, but I
It's
suspect.
bigger than GDP of Africa.
$1 trillion. They were going to invest $1 trillion in the United States. And
Yeah,
what?
like that. So the number that it seems more realistic is just under $1 trillion. That was what that number was. But then they somehow got escalated to like 12 trillion somehow, right? But then like that $1 trillion again, what does that actually look like, right? You put out a big number, but like, do we have a plan for that? Have they presented a plan? What industries are they going to invest in? What projects are they going to do? None of that has to happen, right? You just put out a number. Even that happened with a freaking was it Mark? Sorry, the guy that had a Facebook.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg, right? Yeah, I believe if I remember. I'm sorry. I'm glad I don't want to remember these people. Okay, right? But he was in a meeting with Trump, right? I think with other tech boys as well, and like Trump was asking for like a level of investment, and he said, I believe it was Mark Zuckerberg. He was like, "Oh, well, what number do you want?"
Oh yeah,
Because
I
we can
remember
just
the
throw out a
leaked
number.
audio, the hot
Well,
mic
yeah.
or whatever.
Exactly, dude. There's huge problems right now with the government closure. Like we don't have economic data now, like to fill in those. Like October is completely gone economically. We have no idea what happened. So it's like there's real problems right now, and you don't have basically companies could just kind of just make stuff up. I don't know. It's just there's not the stringency that you've seen like in Tesla, for example, like on his call, Elon Musk talking about how Tesla is going to be the first $10 trillion company and stuff like that. Like on these calls, like, they're supposed to be very rigorous. You have like your chief financial officer reading out, they're very dry. But then you have now kind of like them being a spectacle and not being taken seriously. And, Tesla's a big part of the economy, and they're like they said, they're a huge source of government contracts, guys. So the fact that he's just making numbers up in these things, like any other small business would be just reamed, and you'd fire them, and they would have some type of impact. something, but we just, what do we do now? And it's just, nobody is going to upset the apple cart because nobody wants to upset Trump. So now these business leaders, this is how business becomes co-opted into a fascist state, where now you have the merger of government and financial and corporate interests, and it's very unnerving, to say the least.
I agree, and it's just interesting to hear the claims that Elon is making now about the Optimus robot. Like you said, he's pretty much making the pitch that like this is going to be there's going to be the biggest demand in the world for these things. But he was making the same claims about the Cybertruck, right? Like they're going to be flying off the lines, and I think it's fair to say at this point that the Cybertruck was a massive failure. But he takes no credibility or like any hit for that whatsoever. This is like, just move on. And now the I don't actually know for sure, but I suspect the Optimus robot is going to be just another Cybertruck type of thing.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh, did you guys see those Chinese bots? By the way, how they walked?
Yeah,
that was wild. The reporters in the area didn't believe that it was an actual robot, and they cut it open live on stage to make sure that it was actually a robot, and there was nobody in there. It's like wild, dude.
What? I missed this. I actually don't know what you guys are talking about here.
It's crazy. It was basically they want like a robot that is kind of the same sphere dimensions of a human, so that they can work within our space more easily. And they demonstrated it with this Chinese robot that was just incredible. It was moved so effortlessly and with like elegance, and walked really smoothly, and you're just like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah, what the Chinese appear to be doing in the robotic space seems to be
dude. It's incredible. The ability to high-speed rail deployments, the renewable and sustainable energy deployments, just like they are just massively outbuilding us infrastructure-wise. I mean, they're talking about it, and Ezra Klein talked about it in abundance. I mean, we're talking about like tens of thousands of miles of high-speed rail. We've never haven't even completed 1 mile yet. But yeah, I'm actually, high-speed rail is something that I'm actually, I don't know, man. I am kind of like skeptical about, to be honest with you. I don't know if like maybe we've kind of lost that chance of going to high-speed rail. Maybe we use the infrastructure that we already have, which is cars, and maybe we kind of like push into kind of the autonomous, smaller, self-driving car space, and instead of trains. I don't know.
Or a self-driving bus. If that's
there's like, it seems to be like we kind of have to go with the infrastructure that we have right now. I don't think that we're in the space to be making tens of thousands of miles of high-speed rail. I mean, it would be nice, what I'm saying? If I could start 50 years ago, that's where the direction that you go in. But now it seems like too little too late.
Oh yeah, I believe China's had the advantage of like, they're in the process of developing and largely, depending on what you're talking about, trying to play catch up to the United States. Although when it comes to high-speed rail, obviously they surpassed that because since they started developing that fairly recently, the United States is traditional railroad, and so they have the opportunity. And I think you see that now, like, not that China's doing everything amazingly, but it seems like they're making deep investments in technology and trying to actually be the technological leader in the world, especially when it comes to, at least from what I can tell, like you brought up, like the robotics and like the high-speed rail, and they're trying to develop their own sort of chip technology, and it's like, well, as the Chinese seem to be heavily investing and like the United States is not investing as much.
We're like divesting. Like the projects that are 90% completed, renewable and sustainable energy production sites that are like based off of like sodium reactors and stuff like that. Like we're closing that down. We're literally going in reverse just because they're like 90% done, billions spent, and just because Trump doesn't like renewable and sustainable energy, they're stopping that stuff. And it's like,
he doesn't like wind or solar. And from the data that I've seen, if I remember correctly, it's like, if you're comparing like the amount of like nuclear power plants that China's building, like pretty much China's in the process of like trying to build new nuclear power plants, and the US is like, I believe, in the process of like trying to just like revive old ones that are like shut down.
Mhm.
And that there's and just like it seems like just the scaling that the Chinese are doing, at least when it comes to these green technologies, they're just like massively outpacing what the United States is doing.
I'm only just seeing. I was looking at this Xpeng robot. That's what we're referring to.
Mhm.
And like the movement. Pretty intense. Like they've. I mean, I have yet to see in America an American humanoid robot move in this way. Certainly not fucking Optimus. Certainly not.
Is it Boston Dynamics or something? The robot
Boston
one?
Dynamics has been pretty good.
Yeah.
They've like they're the closest as I've seen is Boston Dynamics to exactly this. But clearly, I mean, we're seeing great amounts of like innovation coming from them. Yeah, this is actually incredible. I was just watching a video on that. But yeah, in terms of innovation, we're seeing a lot coming out of China. They are making very specific investments. Like and compare and contrast that to what happened here in America, right? Talking about high speed rail. They like the Chinese have built like miles and miles of high speed rail, like crisscrossing the country. So very useful for moving the population around. There was an effort to build a high speed rail like through like New York, Washington, New Jersey, probably Philadelphia, I'm guessing as well, into Washington, in Washington D.C. at the end. There was an effort to like build a high speed rail line there. That got blocked by New Jersey Governor Chris. What was his name? Chris. I'm blanking on it. But someone in chat, I'm sure, will let us know. But he was a Republican governor, and he just did that for like political points. He's like sabotaged this project that had gone through the process, right? Like had like bought money. Yeah. Chris Christie, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Chris Christie, he sabotaged this project that they had so much years had gone into putting this together. But at that moment, he was going to get a political benefit to say like, oh, I'm not going to let like this government money be spent, right? Like because this was unnecessary, right? And I'm going to be a hard charger there. Like I'm going to be tough on the budget, you know. That's the kind of the fiscal discipline that I have, right? Like complete nonsense. Now, literally, this was like 15 years ago or something, or a decade, or maybe 15 years ago or something that this happened. And only now are they trying to restart that project, right? All those years lost.
That's crazy. They're actually starting to restart it. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. That's wild. I mean, sometimes I guess you have to. I mean, this is what Newsom like talks about. It's the bane of his existence, this high-speed rail thing, because it's just like every decade is another $50 billion that California spends on this thing, dude, and it still isn't built. And they're basically they're building something from like Sacramento to Merced, like the easiest, like whatever they can get through the heartland of like the inland, away from a bunch of people, and it was just it's the smallest amount between two cities that they could possibly get. They wanted to like start at San Diego, start at San Francisco, and then meet at the middle, and then it's just all went it's just tough. Every stage, it's weird, and it's using a lot of like environmental regulation, but it's not made. The arguments that are referencing those environmental legislation isn't environmental groups. It's basically like other developers, personal reasons. People are referencing that not for environmental reasons, and I think that's kind of the problem. And this is basically the direction that RFK took law, where they're they trying to battle. At first it was like seatbelt companies or something with cars, something wild like that, and then now they're taking it and doing the same thing with this environmental legislation, and it's a tough thing, because it's like, if you're gonna, it's a good question, like legitimately, like environmentally, like if if you had to have something go extinct, an organism go extinct in order to save thousands of tons of CO2 a month, a year, like what is that trade-off, right? Like let's say that there is something that is a crucial habitat. Let's make the worst case scenario, right? It is an indigenous organism that is only there. It is a good part of the ecosystem. Like, if we save enough CO2 that the entire biome is saved, how is that okay?
The entire biome? That's a
I don't know. Well, but wouldn't it? Because eventually, like the CO2 and the CO2 ppms like are going to take out the entire biome. Yeah, the biomes is like wetlands, forests, that kind of area. So like that local environment.
Yeah,
I mean, it absolutely would. Yeah, if CO2 ppms or something got high enough, that's the positive feedback mechanism that is climate change, and that would impact. That's how humans as a species are impacted, not just biomes. Is that that's my argument, right? So.
Yeah. I don't disagree with it. For sure. At some CO2 level, entire ecosystems are going to be affected, and how they're going to be affected is, I think, very difficult to predict. But I think definitely not in the right direction. At least not in the direction that's probably habitable for humans in any reasonable way.
But you know what I mean? Like it's a tough question. I feel like I don't know. Again, I don't know. I feel like creating a high-speed rail should be the priority, and then make it least environmentally impactful.
So we have sorry to interrupt, but we have sort of a similar issue, or we deal with a somewhat similar issue here. So I'm in Canada, but I'm specifically in Quebec, and we have a lot of hydro power, but that requires the building of these large dams. And that's obviously very ecologically intensive, right? And that's potentially environmentally devastating. And hydropower is generally considered like pretty green energy, so to speak.
Clean.
We're definitely,
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have this massive infrastructure that is like environmentally, you're literally reshaping an entire area just to get that type of power. And there are serious concerns of is it actually worth it, or what are the overall effects of just building these huge dams and all the it's a good source of power, but then there's clear environmental impacts that are probably not easy to predict or impossible to predict, especially over the long term.
Yeah. What do you think, Prime?
In terms of climate change, I think that I don't think we understand really what the problem even looks like, because even talking about the sources of emissions is political. The United States military is a massive source of CO2 emissions, a massive source of, and we don't discuss that. We don't really intake that. I've heard claims. I haven't been able to look into these claims, but it might be the biggest emitter of CO2, the United States military, and the biggest single emitter, and we don't really take that into account. We don't how do we tackle that? What is what should be the policy response to that? Other countries, even China, are making big strides, and there's not necessarily a pro-Chinese stream that we're trying to do here. We're just recognizing this is a policy that's being made by other global powers. They're addressing this particular issue, and I think that our special interests have so thoroughly undermined this issue in within the political space that we aren't really talking about like true mitigation efforts, right? Like, what would that look like? A green America, that would be radically different. That would be, and that would be like quite the labor intensive effort. But we're not even there. We're not even discussing. We're not talking about these things. These aren't on the table, right? What's on the table, which was something, was like, hey, let's put up some windmills, right? Let's put up some solar panels, and great, right? Baby steps in the right direction. But even then, that was less direct government investment. That was a like tax subsidies so that the private market could put in some solar panels where they it could be profitable for them, right? Rather than instead a massive like government rollout of solar panels, of windmills where appropriate, right? For like the public good, like a direct investment just to get these things down, right? Rather than have necessarily be concerned about like if it's necessarily profitable, right? Like that's a difference in mindset between these nations and other nations who are taking this quite seriously. Like, are you going to directly invest into this issue? Are you going to directly tackle it and not wait for someone to make a profit off of it necessarily? Because if not, well, you'll have the American rollout of these things where like we have even EV chargers are just like quite anemic compared to what you see in other nations, right? Like, because we're not having a unified national plan to tackle these issues. It's just piecemeal and basically subsidizing corporations to possibly make a profit on these investments.
Yeah, it blows my mind, man. Like the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Act that Biden signed, I mean, they were both for that. And they had $400 billion in credits just sitting there and they didn't use it. And then that was all used and rated by the Trump administration in order to pay for the tax cuts for the billionaires. Like, it's wild. Like, I think that is the biggest lesson of the Biden administration, that you can't just pass legislation, you have to enact the legislation. You have, that's the administrative role. The executive role of what you're doing is that you have to see it actually happen within your presidency, because the next one could just come in and some OMB stamp could say no, not approved, and that freezes hundreds of billions of dollars, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we're at and yeah, this sounding very pro-Chinese, and I'm not a fan of the CCP. I'm a fan of Chinese people, right? Chinese people are great, but I'm not a fan of the CCP. But like, just in terms of a matter of the structure of the government and the policy, right? Of being able to create a longitudinal policy like into the future. Like, I mean, they have the speed. I mean, like Biden, who I have many issues with, but within his administration, the Inflation Reduction Act, which is like, this is one of their big pushes, the green pushes. Their infrastructure bill, right? These were efforts to have at a national level some direction, some policy, have some tax incentives, some direct government investments, and to direct our economy to tackle these issues. 2 years later, from when that's passed, Trump's in office, and he acts as that, right? From, even if you take it right, so like I'm for direct government investments, but even if you take it like, well, I prefer the private sector to handle these things. Okay, right? If you are a captain of industry, right, either at a very large corporation or a small startup, how is this policy landscape where it shifts like a hard right? I mean, or hard reverse, not right, but hard reverse. How is that conducive to investments, right? Like if I want to invest into the American economy, to the American homeland, right, and within green energy, if I had done that in 2022, right, I'd be asked out in 2025, right? Like I'd have been fucked.
Yeah.
And this literally did happen. Is that these grants are pulled back, or these tax incentives were pulled back? That's not an environment conducive to business.
Exactly.
Comparing that to what happened in China, and again, not pro-Chinese here, screw the CCP. But comparing to that, where like these investments, when they're making them, they're done. They're like that's what's going to happen. We pick the direction, and we're going to make these investments into these industries, right? And those who can make a company and make that successful, they'll get to be the benefit of that government assistance. They'll have protections to help incubate that company and then help them flourish. And we have seen the results. The results are in, and they've been extremely successful. When we're talking about batteries, right? Like just batteries in general. But also specifically when you're talking about EVs, when you're talking about solar panels, and now they're going to go into AI and robotics. We are seeing these massive investments, and they're paying off. They didn't just start like yesterday. They didn't start 2 years ago. They didn't do this within a 4-year period, right?
Yeah.
This is an industrial policy. That's what this looks like when it's planned and when it's stuck to over a decade, 2 decades. These are the results that can happen. And here in America, just from the structure of our government, we are at a severe disadvantage. And I don't know exactly how to overcome that.
And well, I think this also like loops back or relates to pretty much like what you said almost from the beginning of like pretty much what's happening now overall in science. Like this is going to have like whatever echoes or ramifications like 5-10 years down the line. And then like how is that going to interplay with like, as you just said, what you're seeing now with China and EVs and robotics and let's say AI. That's the results of like some sort of vision and investment, 10, 20, however many years ago. And so like as they're investing and then it's like, 5 or 10 years in the United States, it's like, oh, all of the exodus of scientists and, the divesting of certain funding for certain technology. It's like, yeah, again, setting the stage for just the downgrade of the US and well, again, not pro-China, but just maybe the descriptive reality of like the takeoff of China when it comes to certain industries,
Yeah.
we'll see how it plays out. But like, that seems like what the stage is being set for.
Got to come together, man. We have to come together as a country. It's wild. Like just like we have to like
we have to come together with Canada.
For real. The NAFTA was huge. I mean, again, like there is no. I think that the trade deals are happening. They're just happening without the United States, and like it freezes it so much. Yeah, it's just we're just gonna have to see. Hopefully the tariff thing is ruled illegal by SCOTUS. That is, I guess, a way that we could be saved here. But I don't know. It is. There's so much. There's just so much going wrong right now.
Yeah,
that it's hard to know.
Just as sort of also though, the effects of like the tariffs and the tensions between the United States and Canada, or rather the tensions between the United States and Canada caused by, I think, Trump largely, if not exclusively from Trump. There's like talk now in Canada of like, so from what I understand, EVs from China are effectively banned, or you realistically can't get one in the United States because the tariffs are so high. I believe during the Biden administration, like tariffs on EVs from like China were like 50 or 100% or something crazy. Essentially the point of like it's in effect a ban. And I believe Canada followed suit, as in like there's no, as far as I can tell, there's no Chinese made EVs here. But that move that Canada made, I believe, was like largely due to the fact that like United States made that move, and like no surprise, Canada follows the United States, or rather, we try to be friendly neighbors, and so it's like, well, you're gonna do it, well, we'll do it. But now I believe there's talk now in Canada, like, well, maybe we should remove those restrictions and actually allow Chinese EVs in Canada. and then, well, there goes that.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Well, I tried to get these guys to come in. I tried. Sometimes it's some better. Sometimes it's
People come in.
I don't know.
Yeah, we had a few.
Yeah, the MAGA people. You try sometimes, and they get scared. But anyway, guys, thank you for coming on. That was really nice. I thought that was really cool. I'm happy we got the tech like all situated, and in future times, I think like I think the like setting it up through this way or through natively through TikTok or whatever we can figure out in the future. But I thought it was like pretty awesome. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
I thought it was, I was gonna say, I haven't gotten a TikTok live. So you mentioned that there's a desktop app for TikTok live. I haven't got that up and running. I seem to have some sort of like login issue. I can log in everywhere else, but the TikTok live thing or the TikTok studio seems to like.
No, that's why. Yeah, so I can't log into that either, but I think it's because I don't have enough followers. I'm not like live approved yet. So if you all, those of you following on Dr. Greg's TikTok, if you'd be so kind, or anywhere else on any other platform, to go to my very brand new page on TikTok, tiktok.com/PrimeKai, and you could follow. If I could get a certain number, I think 100 or so, right? Then I can go live myself. And these streams would actually be much easier technically for us if we could manage that. So if you could be so kind. Oh, also, in going to our Corey Campbell's, what's your handle again?
It's Corey Campbell.
He's in the box right now, guys. So he's like right here. So you can just like add him. There's like a little like plus sign that you can add. And then Prime's. I put it in the chat, so you could do that. So yeah, guys. Hopefully,
so kind. Be great.
Yeah, hoping to do more higher level debate panel ideas on TikTok.
Yeah. And to the audience, you can tell us like what you like, what you want to hear about, right? Like in terms of topics, but also like in terms of format. There was an individual who came in earlier. Maybe it was Eden, right? Talking about there was a TikToker that was like really great, a great investigator or something, right? I'd love it if we could talk to other creators, bring them in for conversations, so they can be a part of this too. We love to grow this space. This is just the first time that we tried this particular format, but we decided we'd be nimble with this. Right, it doesn't have to be exactly what you're seeing now. We can work together. Us and you, the audience. To figure out something that works well, that you really enjoy. So please don't be shy about that. Follow us, let us know what you want, and hopefully we can grow this into something great. We haven't even decided like necessarily on a frequency as to how often we'll do this, but I think maybe we can slowly ramp up to something that everyone is comfortable in terms of our schedules. I'm excited. I thought this was a great conversation. This was a lot of fun. Went smoothly. I enjoyed the calls. Thank you so much for those who did come in, and hopefully the others who were too afraid, maybe you'll be brave next time. We'd love to have you. But yeah, follow me on TikTok at PrimeKai. Also Twitch, YouTube, and I also just created a kick. I just was like, might as well just like do the full list, right? So I created
a Rumble. No, I'm just kidding.
I think I do. Actually, I do have a Rumble. I just never used that. But yeah, kick.com/PrimeKai as well. As you see it on your screen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Greg, for reaching out to me. This wouldn't happen without Dr. Greg. Dr. Greg they reached out and said like, hey man, I've got these degrees. I have this knowledge set, and I'd love to collaborate with you. And he inspired me to come. I wouldn't be on TikTok right now if it wasn't for him. So shout out to Dr. Greg. Support Dr. Greg. Buy his merch if you haven't done so yet. Buy all that. We're having a great interaction now, and so I'm grateful to him. And shout out to my friend Corey, who's already part of my community, but he's a fantastic individual, so please support him as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, guys, let's do it again soon. Do you want to say anything, Corey?
No, I was gonna say thank you for those kind words, and also thank you to Greg for having this idea, and thank you to Prime for inviting me and including me. Yeah, I thought this for a first time stream. I thought it went great in terms of like no major tech issues and like
yeah,
great
was
topic
cool.
of conversation.
And honestly, probably, guys, I mean, I can't see anything major going on in science or anything worth talking about. You know what I mean? It's just such a dead time in our job. So probably never, science issues are probably never going to come up. So
Not according to my Twitter feed.
yeah, exactly. Not according to any semblance of the world. But yeah, thanks, guys. Let's do it again soon. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Have a good
Be
one,
in touch.
guys.
Be well.